Well, guys, we are back for another episode of the Liberal Asshole Show, episode 128, and this is probably going to be a long one because of a lot of big-ass topics we got. So, what are today's topics?
Australia and Canada elections. Thoughts on the new Pope. Justin Tucker sexual assault scandal. India-Pakistan skirmish again. Russian prison torturing prisoners. Trump has a complete brain-dead meltdown, and Matt Walsh both defends racist Karen cunt and rages about TradCon waifus.
Oh, man. And I organized most of them from, like, the worst to the best at the end. So I won't be depressed in the middle, and then be very delighted at the end. Alright, so What do we cover first?
We're covering the elections in Canada and Australia.
Yes, exactly. So, since you're part of the neck of the woods, let's get to you first. So, TLDR.
Yep.
Did progressives win?
In the lower house, it was a mixed bag for the progressives. Yes, Labor had a landslide victory, but the Greens lost seats. But because of the Liberals losing a big chunk of primary votes, in several seats that brought Labor up to second, and so the Greens wound up losing a couple of seats, including their leader, Adam Bandt.
And more importantly, did Liberals take a big fat L?
Yes, they're down to...
Oh, thank God!
It looks like they're down to about 44 seats. And, just like in Canada, their leader lost his seat as well. Peter Dutton, a.k.a. Cameron Trump.
That is funny.
Yeah.
So, basically... conservatives in both countries took a massive L, and the more left-wing option won more because of third-party parties lost a lot, like what happened in Canada as well when we get to it. Before we get to the video, what do you have to say about the results? Happy with Albo for next, few years?
Yeah, I'm pretty good with it.
Me jealous not having him over the orangutan.
Yeah.
Hey, you can
So it looks like Labor's got 28 seats in the Senate. The Liberal National Coalition have 26 seats. The Greens have 11. And we got 5 of 40 seats left in doubt. And we still don't know what the remaining 5 are yet. But we still have 9 seats in doubt. At this point, we have 1, 2, look like going to Labor. Looks like the Green might hold on, but we don't know who will finish second in there. We have 4 seats left. Look like they'll be going to the Greens.
Yay.
But there's a few that are extremely complex results because some of them have a lot of independent candidates, and so we don't know what the numbers are going to be there.
Now before we get to the
but it looks like we're going to have 12 independents.
Interested.
Yep, which is really good to see. Many of them are teals they're a bit more, they're like somewhat usually right-leaning economically, but they want strong action on things like climate change, government transparency,
somewhat like
the housing
neolibs.
crisis, things like that.
So
they're like
milder neolibs, basically.
They're economically they're kind of neoliberal, but like socially progressive.
Interesting. Now, of course, we're going to cover this with Ken as well, but did Trump have a major factor in this election?
Yes.
How much?
Yes, he did.
Was it as strong as Canada?
I mean, the LNP Labor went from 78 to looks like 93 seats, and the LNP went from a mid-50s to maybe 44. So yeah, I'd say it did. They lost like 5% nationwide in their primary vote.
You're saying Trump should have kept his big mouth shut again, like we always been saying?
Mm-hmm.
But in this regard, thank you, Trump! Actually giving you praise for once. Yep. Thank you for helping progressives and liberals win in countries. more importantly, crushing Conservatives. Thank you in that regard. All right,
Yep.
So let's watch the video that you posted.
The 2025 federal election is over, and I have to say the Liberal Party might be as well if they don't start listening to the messages being sent to them from the past 2 elections. I don't think anyone other than the most ardent poll denier would have been surprised with Labor taking the chocolates. Aggregated polling was only really trending one way.
Yeah, it showed, just like with Canada, Liberals winning pretty comfortably. But then, when 2025 came around, all of a sudden, it flipped. I wonder why.
The only real surprise for me was the margin. To be honest, I'd probably expected the Coalition to pick up a couple more seats than they have. I said in 2022 that the election result then was as much about booting Scott Morrison and the Coalition out of government as it was about anything the Labor Party had put on the table. And for me, a similar vibe really
That's pretty much how all the elections have been right now, just kicking out the incumbent party in power. But hey, you're like, good, get rid of Morrison. Remember he went in Hawaii when you all had the wildfires?
Oh, yeah.
Remember your epic meltdown?
It's true this time as well. For me, the 2025 election result is really a story about the failure of the Coalition, their failure to learn from their past mistakes. I think it should also serve as a warning that spending too much time within the safe little Murdoch echo chamber can really start
the Murdoch echo chamber. I like the sound of that.
Listening and taking advice from
good ass insult there.
Not a recipe for success.
Oh yeah.
Prior to the election, there were 4 seats I was keeping an eye on: Kooyong, Goldstein, Griffith, and Dixon. I'd like to have been able to cover them all in the lead-up, but really just didn't have the time. So ultimately, I landed on Kooyong again. It made the most sense given I had the background from 2022, and it looked like it was going to be another spicy affair, and Kooyong hasn't let me down. As of recording this, Kooyong looks like it will go down to the wire. Monique Ryan is currently ahead, but I wouldn't like to bet either the London...
let me go back. So this election that this person's covering, how long ago was this video?
This was right around the day of the election.
So a week ago. And
by the way, it is the I'm looking at the numbers here, and it is like you have 7 parties here involved. You got the Liberal Party, the Independent, Labor Party, Greens, the Lolbertarians, White Nation, and Trump the Patriots.
Oh, yeah. What is this? Is this just a Trump party, pretty much? Oh, my God.
Yep. That's what Clive Palmer made. And at the moment, in the first preferences, Amalia Harmer is on 43.8%. The Independent Monique Ryan is at 34.2%. Third place Labor is at 11.6%, and the fourth place Greens are at 7.2%. And the other 3 are at 3.2% combined.
So it looks like the Liberal candidate's probably going to win, huh?
It's going to come down to 47, 41. It's going to come down to what way the preferences flow for Labor. Labor preferences flow.
Oh, yeah, ranked
but
choice
at the
vote,
moment,
W.
Monique Ryan is just holding on.
Ranked choice vote in W, you're saying. Yay!
Oh, yes.
Go down to the wire. Monique Ryan is currently ahead, but I wouldn't like to bet either the London or
again, rubbing into the American space.
Looks like the Brendans of the world are generally postal voters, which I guess makes sense if you're down at your Portsea weekender. In Goldstein, Zoe Daniel is ahead by less than 100 votes, but with the way postal votes are trending there as well, it's looking increasingly likely that Tim Wilson will snatch victory there as if it were a wreath at an Anzac Day service. I have to say, if Tim Wilson gets back in, people of Goldstein really need to take...
Of course, it would be funny, Trumpsters being confused. Why do you all want the Liberal Party to lose? Aren't you a bunch of libtards? Shouldn't you be happy if they win?
No, because... And there's a lot of news outlets that have had to clarify that the Liberal Party is the Conservative Party and the Labour are the kind of centre-left ones.
Maybe you idiot fake Liberal Party shouldn't have Liberal in your name then. How about that one?
Kooyong and Goldstein are both seats that the Liberal Party have felt they own. Losing
you're
them in
fake
2022
liberals.
would have stung, and the Libs have done absolutely everything at both those seats to try and win them back. Not to mention the support
We're more
they've
liberal
received
than
from
you all.
and the exclusive brethren. Griffith, I was interested in, as Max Chandler Mather has demonstrated a unique ability to trigger rusted-on Labor faithful, as well as the Prime Minister. He's been a fairly polarising figure.
But they would love to see Daddy Cedar come down there and debate them to hell. They would laugh a moment.
Labor are always going to throw everything at regaining Griffith, and then you also
races between Labor and Green. I see.
Propaganda. It really looked like.
Oh, there was actually, Animarchy, right?
The name rings a vague bell.
Because I watch him a lot. He's a fellow progressive. Yep. He was one election he was covering. He actually wanted the Labor candidate to win over to Green for some reason. Kind of interesting.
Ugh.
Retaining the seat there was a bridge.
And yet he's to the left of us.
The interesting part of the Griffith result was, despite losing the seat, support for the Greens there didn't fall off a cliff. It was really the drop in the Liberal vote there that's allowed.
Let me see
Labor
if I could find his tweets, and maybe you'll know the election.
Here's Samantha Maiden describing
itself.
the political three-way phenomenon.
Okay.
When you have these three-cornered contests, right, you don't necessarily have the Greens' vote collapsing. What actually happened in Max Chandler Mather's seat is that the Liberal vote collapsed. That's what actually happened. If you go look at the vote that the Greens got in 2022 and the vote that they got in 2025, it's not that different.
Right,
it's just that when the vote splits that way in three ways and the Liberal vote fell, that's what allowed Labor to get up.
Like Stephen Bates in Brisbane, Max Chandler Mather ultimately lost.
All right, here you go. If you want to take a look at it really quickly.
Whatever you think of Max or his approach, I hope
I'll do
there's
that.
someone in the class of 2020.
How'd the election go in your neck of the woods?
Oh, in my little electorate, Amanda Rishworth is like, she's super popular. She just extended her already massive margin. So and she's saying that about the leader of the Greens, Adam Bant.
So good results in your neck of the woods, right?
Yes.
So we gotta see about what Animarchy said.
I'm reading.
Because someone actually asked him, aren't you like very left wing? Why would you want the Labor to win? And he explains why. Or at least part of the reason.
25 that's willing to stand up and push the government to do more on housing.
It sounds like he thinks that Adam Bant is just an obstructionist instead of they're not being an obstructionist. So, which they were for a time, but eventually they did work a bit more with.
He says in one of the bottom tweets that the Greens also have some outright moronic policies and are a minor party.
Mm-hmm. Genuinely obvious to all but the most partisan Kool-Aid sippers that the government has delivered very little when it comes to solving the housing crisis. And they've put forward very little to shift the dial in the next term as well. Sorry if that offends, but housing really is one of those areas in which the Liberal Labor shit light tag is more than appropriate. Finally, we have Dixon. Before election night, I didn't have Dutton losing his seat on my bingo card, even though it's...
And Dutton dipshit is the Trump wannabe, if I'm correct.
Yep.
and he lost pretty badly. Oh, God forbid he lost to a woman, too. Oh, I bet he was very misogynistic about that.
He lost to a woman, which is absolutely hysterical.
Did he go full misogynistic over it?
No. Surprisingly, he was actually surprisingly conciliatory, and he took responsibility for losing. But
you're a dipshit Trumpster. You're supposed to deny election results and call her a Karen or other misogynistic slur.
It's always been relatively close there. The difference this time around was
it's so satisfying seeing the main conservative idiots down there and in Canada lose it. Isn't it beautiful?
But don't overlook the contribution
very
of the
good.
independent there in dislodging one of the more
it's
divisive
all their fault too. They
politicians
blew their chances.
The Liberal Party just won't survive if they're unable
but
to
hey,
work their way
gotta
back
thank the
into
orangutan
the
as well, pals.
That much should be abundantly clear.
Yes.
The fact
Especially
that
Norfolk we'll get to in a moment.
in the country have now become incredibly marginal, if not being been lost completely.
Oh, it's so nice to see. Hey, remember the last episode I gave that big-ass warning at the end of the episode not to make sure y'all keep your Trumpsters out? I think my big-ass uproar and hyper voice worked.
To been a wake-up call last year.
Good thing no one else had soundproof.
Spent 3 years huffing his own farts, barely setting foot outside his safe place. Once he stepped out of
Just
the
like I don't need Iron Ball for my heavy slam to do shuckle level damage.
There wasn't a policy announcement he wasn't prepared to walk away from, and it was almost like the coalition's research was to dump a policy out into the wild, gauge the public reaction, and then walk it back very quickly if it wasn't a winner.
If the election's about cost of living, you tell me how you guys keep losing poor old seats where people are struggling.
I think the really interesting thing
Why are you going to get your
tonight, whether the strategy that Peter Dutton
Why are you going to get your
whether the strategy that Peter Dutton.
Did the Trump effect play a role? No doubt. Despite their protests,
the cope from the Liberals during the election night was amazing.
Were they violent like Trumpsters?
Amazing.
Clearly an element within
the number of times the guy on the ABC said, "Wait for the postal votes."
And did they blame evil aboriginals or whatever?
To go full Trump, which appears to
I'm
be
sure there's
spurred
one
on
who
by the
did.
support of Germany. And even more remarkably, after the result on Saturday
don't you
night,
love
we have
laughing at
Liberal senators
racism?
popping up with this sort of thing.
Yep.
Daily Mail. What are they doing out of the UK? Oh my God. So
that's the international branch.
Of course, a blunt message for Aussie politicians: be more like Trump. Gotta say about that.
That didn't work
on the Sunday.
I mean, it worked in our favor.
Is make sure that
maybe we should encourage them to be more like Trump.
Great again.
Then we can wipe out the party out.
And then
it'd be fun. It'd be more fun to have Labour and Greens be the main two, with the main third one is being the independents.
You just like we need an actual non-green like party here challenging Dems.
You definitely do.
If only that could be the case for me. I can't have nice things.
Said it during the American campaign. Why are they getting
because your country's a shithole
and you love rubbing in my face.
I mean, what's the level of doubling?
Oh yeah.
If the Liberal Party think this
you
is
love
a
flexing,
victory, then they may well be on track to become a minor party very soon. And for all his bluster about doing a deal with Trump, it turns out that Trump doesn't even know who Dutton is.
Just had no idea.
Yes, I love that moment.
The polls all started to point to the same result. I'd occasionally see people posting on Twitter.
Imagine being that much of a simp, and the person you're simping over doesn't even know who you are. You're supposed to be like, notice me, senpai.
How could it be that Dutton was heading toward defeat? I think the answer to that is pretty simple. Once an election is called, whether you
all of a sudden. Dipshit Trump all of a sudden started praising and sucking the dick of Abbo, if you didn't notice that.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that a little weird and funny?
The Prime Minister or the opposition leader, there's nowhere to hide. People
surprising and throw an anti-Italian slur.
Daily, and the more they saw of him, the less they were inclined to vote for him.
This is a bit edgy, but I've been really thinking about the fact that Peter Dutton always thought the media were too hard on him. I think him...
is that a bunch of cope I'm hearing?
Yep.
The media is too hard on Dutton. I bet it's more like the opposite, that they were too soft on, like, he is over here with Trump. What do you think?
In many ways, the media were too gentle with him. And I think he wasn't stress-tested enough before they got to the campaign. Stress-tested on the policies, but also on his positioning.
Maybe you're all a bunch of couch rapists like JD Buckwheat
they would have been readier for the campaign.
The coalition will lick their wounds, and it'll be interesting to see where they decide to go from here.
And you're all jealous.
You find them more in the White Nation and Trumpeter Patriots. And parties.
And they're probably jealous that I can make people laugh and they can't.
Looking at the list of potential opposition leaders, it does not exactly fill me with confidence. For Labor, they can celebrate a thumping win, but I don't think it'll escape anyone at their HQ that their thumping win has come despite only registering around 1/3 of the first preference vote. It's a reality that the other vote has continued to grow.
Yeah, so this is apparently like the first party that people voted for. Labor got 34.8% of the vote.
Yep.
And then the coalition, which is Liberals coalescing with whoever it was, 32.1%.
The Nationals.
Others.
The Nationals are basically politically, they're the ones that sit in that fairly narrow window between the Liberal Party and One Nation.
Not surprised. Trumpsters. 13.2% for others, whatever that is. Greens got 11.
That's mostly independents.
Then Greens got 11.8%, which they lost 0.5% from, I'm guessing, the last election this is covering?
Yeah.
Yep. One Nation, Trump bit of Patriots got like 1.9%, and One Nation got 6.2%. So, you want to maybe say how your elections went, or like how you voted?
Oh, I did. There was an Animal Justice Party that I just put in first because they were like a micro party. They were never going to get anywhere. They were meant to go into the Greens, then Labor in third, the Libs in fourth, Family First, which is a religious right-wing party, in fifth, Pauline Hanson's White Nation in sixth, and Trumpeter Patriots in seventh.
You had to do every single one of them? Oof!
Yep.
Wow! You can't even just say, fuck the rest, huh? Wow,
yeah.
That sucks.
As far as the country goes, I think we can expect more.
It's still good. It's good for ensuring that you put the pressure on Labor, being like, hey, you got to start doing more progressive policies, or you're eventually, or the Greens are going to start overwhelming you more and more.
And you're not going to be necessarily lucky next time, because who knows? Either Trump might not be there next time, or people will be like, we don't care about Trump anymore. We'll just vote for liberals no matter what. So you got this opportunity. You better take advantage of it.
Around the edges of some of the country's bigger issues. With an increased majority,
don't make the same mistake Dems do.
I hope that it would empower them to be a little bolder and demonstrate a little more courage and ambition in trying to tackle the big stuff like housing this time around. So here's hoping that the government steps up, because if they just roll out more of the same, I fear it'll be another term largely wasted. When you find yourself in the position to make real and lasting change, and
so basically that's what happened last time since 2022 in your eyes.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I think you're really just holding power for power's sake at that point, which all in all seems pretty sad.
All right, so that was interesting. We'll get to Canada in a moment. Yep. So what do you guys say about elections in Australia? Are you happy?
I think they're pretty good. The Greens have a good number in the upper house, so it should be okay. So they'll be able to push to nudge Labor left a couple of times.
And seeing the Liberals take a big fat L is always worth it. Especially when it was all self-inflicted. Thank you, orangutan. Now, let's get to the next country on the list. Canada, who had their elections back in April 28th, after we did last that week. And pretty much the exact same thing happened, where the Liberals won, and this time Liberals are the actual left-wing party. So now we don't have to worry about the confusion. So now, of course, the exact same thing happened with Australia and Canada, and if anything, Canada had an even more extreme variation, because at one point, the Conservatives had like a 30-point swing in the polls, like they were gonna win in a blowout. But that all changed because of Trump's fucking fat mouth, and it was a beautiful sight seeing them completely implode. But the election results came in. The Liberals won, although I don't think, last I checked, they got the majority, which they potentially maybe could have had. So I think they're going to have to do a coalition. They gained 17 seats. The Conservatives, while they did not win the majority like they all thought they were going to do, they actually did gain a bunch of seats. They gained more seats than the Liberals. So they gained ground there. The big thing, however, was the third parties. All of them lost seats pretty much, and pretty bad blowouts.
Yeah,
they got destroyed. Basically, it was a coalition, a condensing of Liberals and Conservative Party together. So it's like they're pretty much them at the moment. So while it's nice that the Conservatives didn't win, they did gain seats, which is also a concern. So it's kind of like a mixed bag, more like in Canada than it sounds like down there. But of course, we all know why. The exact reason why the Conservatives lost. And it was all Trump.
Donald Trump.
That was it. It was way more obvious than it was down in Australia. Let's see. The tariffs, that was a big thing. But the actual real reason why is because he kept talking about Canada becoming the 51st state and all that.
Yep.
So, thank you, Trump, for pissing off Canadians enough to keep the Conservatives from winning. Thank you very much. That's
always
two countries you helped save. Thank you very much. All you had to do was shut your big fat mouth up, not do anything, and Australia and Canada could have probably gone conservative, which would have been in your favor. But nope, you just can't keep your mouth shut. And of course, the main conservative candidate in Canada lost his seat too, which was beautiful.
Yep.
Fucking morons.
Yes, absolutely.
Maybe next time don't become like the pro-Trump piece of shit that you were. Maybe you wouldn't have lost so badly. Like, it was so obvious. Once Trump opened his mouth, you have to become anti-Trump completely at that point. But the Conservative Party, they were too pro-Trump, they just couldn't drop it. Maybe you shouldn't focus on other countries' idiots instead of focus on your own country instead. How about that one?
Exactly.
You fucking morons. So, yeah. Thank you, Trump, for helping Canada and Australia not elect dipshits for just a moment. Now to...
Pretty much.
And now... So, yeah, we got to see about the results in Canada as well.
The results in Canada are a bit more mixed than in Australia, but all positive overall.
As long as all the conservatives in both countries take a big fat L, it's always a W for us, and they still did take a fat L, even if they gained seats. A 30-point lead they were having, and it all went away because Trump's big fat mouth, and they still... Only a few of them will actually blame him for it, when that's the whole reason.
Exactly.
Because they're too much fuck to him. But of course, we gotta say this... But yeah, we gotta say this to both liberals in Canada and Labour. Don't let this victory go to waste, because next time you might not be so lucky. So go all the way to progressives. You understand me? Go all the way as left as possible, and then you actually might win forever like FDR, pal. How about that one?
Exactly.
Oh my god. So, yeah, that was funny covering all that. So now, I guess, on to the next topic.
And that will be... thoughts on the new Pope.
Yep, as we mentioned last time, after Pope Francis died, if they had their election and they got a new Pope, we'll talk about him. Well, that just happened yesterday. They finally elected the new Pope, and this Pope, for the first time ever, is American. Ain't that interesting? We now have an American Pope for once. Now the name is Pope Leo the 14th. Interested?
Yeah.
So, of course, we said last time, we hope that the next Pope will be progressive. Or at least continue with
Pope progressive for, Italy.
Yep. Or the Vatican. And for Catholicism. Yep. Hoping that it would happen, but of course, I was more likely to believe that it's probably going to be a right-wing backlash because Francis did piss off a whole bunch of Catholics for him being somewhat progressive and all that. So, of course, after Leo became the Pope, I actually went on his Wikipedia page to look up his views and all that. And, of course, not all of it's covered because it just showed up recently. Also, he's pretty old. He's going to be 70 years old at the end of the year. So,
younger than the last couple.
But still pretty old. I mean, God, you had someone who was barely even 50, I think, as a potential candidate too. You don't go for anyone younger.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty disappointing in that regard. But now, the views. Now, of course, just became the Pope, so maybe stuff could change. I didn't think Francis was going to be even close to as good as he was back in 2013 when he became Pope. So anything could change, but right now, I would say... Leo's a mixed bag to not being so good.
Yeah.
So, of course, the first thing that pops up, I don't know where I'm going to find it yet, but he did say, somewhere Wikipedia, because it's not showing yet, that he did acknowledge climate change exists and we should do some of that. That's a big W. Thank you, at least for the fair minimum in that regard. All right, and the first thing is women. He opposes ordination of women and such. So I guess against women being priests, which, in Catholicism, women can't be priests, which is absolutely retarded. So it doesn't sound pretty progressive on women's rights, but that's the only thing so far on women's issues. Now social and political issues. Now, of course, an update here, it said that is seen as a moderate or centrist. Well, I don't know necessarily if that's good or not. Then again, it is the Pope, so I guess maybe, but not really impressive. So, here we go. Wait. Okay, Cosmopolitan. Alright, so it says Leo opposes euthanasia, abortion, and the death penalty. Okay, abortion, that sucks, but I mean, that's not surprised at all. Francis also
like
was
that,
too.
That's obligatory.
Yeah, that's
if you're part of that church. The only thing to be like not all relatively awful on that is to just not advocate for the extrajudicial murder of women for having abortions.
And euthanasia, that's kind of unfortunate too, and such. Like a physician-assisted suicide should be an option. But this was not add on last time I checked. He's against the death penalty. Okay, good. Being pro-life, someone in that regard, that's a positive. He supported, he supports refugees from Venezuela, which is also good as well.
Oh, nice.
All right, now we get to other things. On Twitter, he expressed support for vaccines during COVID-19. That's good.
Oh.
That's something that dipshit conservatives on purpose refuse to cover because the vaccine's bad and anti-vaxxers, myth. So that's good.
Cause autism.
So that's good. He had sympathy for George Floyd and the protesters when he was killed. That's good. He shits on Trump and Vance, which was hilarious. That's a joke that Vance is pissed off at him too now, if you didn't see the memes on that.
Of course.
So that's wrong. Freaking Vance killed Francis, remember the meme.
Yep.
I mean, that's good and all you shit on Trump and Vance, although that's still a low bar for me. I want better than that. I want, like, actual policies, not just shitting on someone who's bad. Alright, so... yeah, this is a lot more detailed than it was yesterday. He also criticized Trump beating El Salvador's dictator president. Good. And against his immigration policy. Also good.
Woo-hoo!
He apparently has voted for Democrats in Chicago's primaries from 2008 all the way to 2016. Oh, no. He voted for Democratic and Republican people from 2008 to 2016. So, like, all over the place in terms of, like, voting people in. So,
which is...
He opposes the inclusion of gender ideology. Of course, that's ass. And, genders... this is from 2016, and he says that genders don't exist. The concept of gender doesn't exist. Of course, denies that gender and sex are separate. That sucks ass. In 2012, he criticized popular culture's sympathy for the homosexual lifestyle. Of course, classic homophobia. But it is 2012, so maybe changed in the 13 years. Expressed reservations about sympathetic to beliefs and practices that contradict the church. Of course, not surprised. That's what they did with Francis. And keep looking. Oh, yeah. Okay, there's the climate change, which I already said he supports, acknowledges. And that pretty much is it at the moment. Now, of course, became Pope just a day ago, so anything could change. So, yeah. Sounds like best a mixed bag and probably more like a negative, somewhat. So, yeah, what do you guys say about Pope Leo now? Yeah, I think it's still a downgrade. But
Not great, but better than what could have been, considering the other candidates were like almost Nazis.
Yep. I know it was going to be tough to match what Francis did, but hey, Leo's got time. Maybe all of a sudden he could make it better, because like I said, I didn't think Francis was going to be good, but he ended up being somewhat good. The best pope in our lifetimes. Maybe Leo can do that. Hopefully he'll actually do good. But yeah, now with that out of the way, on to the next topic.
And that is Justin Tucker's sex assault scandal.
Now, of course, before we get to it, this is the topic I wanted to cover for months, but I wanted to wait for more details, or I also forgot about stuff at the same time. But first off, do you know who Justin Tucker is?
No.
Not surprised. He's an NFL kicker for the Ravens. He's been on the team since 2012. He's one of the best kickers in the league and is a future Hall of Famer, hopefully one day. Although, he actually crapped the bed this last year, so bad that they actually cut him a week ago. Like, he was...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he completed, like, only 73% of his field goals last year, which is horrendous.
Oh.
Like, at this point, a kicker needs to convert, like, 90% of their field goals to even be good. Yeah, he completely collapsed. But hey, that's what Ravens are good for, historically, kickers, other than their defense. So, yeah, of course, cutting the kicker who did bad, that's nothing really to talk about. However, what is to talk about, as I'm loading up the Wikipedia article, is that he's had, back in January, sexual assault allegations that's happened with him. Do you remember Deshaun Watson back in 2021?
Yes.
Basically the same thing. He was accused of sexually assaulting massage therapists when he got massages. The exact same allegations. So on Wikipedia, the Baltimore Banner published first-hand testimonies from 6 massage therapists accusing Tucker of inappropriate sexual behavior from 2012 when he first joined the Ravens to 2016. And the allegations that he intentionally exposed his genitals, brushed his dick on some of the therapists, and left cum on the massage table after 3 of his treatments. Almost exactly what happened with Watson. Pretty much to a T. Several therapists said that Tucker's behavior led to them to end their sessions with him early or refuse to work with him again. Again, just like Watson. 2 spas banned him from returning. Again, just like Watson, people. It's almost the exact same stuff. And Tucker denied the allegations, and that it's impossible to prove, as well as denying that Tucker was banned from the 2 spas, that he never ejaculated at a spa. Yada yada yada. Keep going on. And I'm trying to find, because it's not just like a few of them. There's a lot of women that have filed sexual assault allegations against him, just like what happened with Watson.
Far out.
Like, I'm trying to find, because I've read, skimmed through this a little bit. Oh yeah, Farm Store, which is a local gas station in Delmarva. He used to do ads for them all the time. That they cut him. That's pretty funny.
Wow.
Oh boy. Okay, I'm trying to find. It's not saying it, but there were a lot of women that were accused. I saw somewhere between 10 to 20 women that were accusing him. Which again is not far off. Which is not far off from what Watson was accused of when his allegations happened 4 years ago. It's a lot of them that you can't just dismiss it, and NFL's doing an investigation on it. This needs to be taken seriously and all that. So of course, like I said, the Ravens cut him recently. Now of course, people are wondering, ooh, was it because of the sexual assault allegations? They never said it. They didn't even say anything why they cut him. Now, they have an excuse because he sucked last year. That could be a reason why they cut him. Yep. Unlike Watson, who didn't have a terrible excuse that he was sucked and all that. But, so, yeah. This I wanted to cover for months, but I wanted to wait for more details about it. So, what do you guys say about it?
That's fucked up. Really fucked up.
Why is it now all of a sudden? This is multiple times now.
What is it with your thing and rape allegations?
What is it, NFL players recently, that you can't control yourselves at massage places? This is the third time since 2021. Watson, I think someone else, now Tucker. My goodness, can't you learn to control yourselves around women? It ain't that hard, people.
Now, of course, not hard.
Especially. Now, of course, I'm not going to accuse him or anything because this is allegations and all that. I'm going
to... These are all allegations at the moment.
But I doubt he'll be on any NFL team this coming year since he played so bad. And I'm sure the allegations are going to scare teams away from him, just like what happened with Watson when he missed all of 2021 and such.
Yeah.
So, yeah. This is not good. And since it's happened multiple times, now I think the NFL needs to start really cracking down on this, because this needs to stop. No more. We need to stop seeing these allegations of sexual assault misconduct at massage therapists. It ain't that hard, people, to control yourselves. Jesus. This is like getting as pathetic as the domestic abuse scandals back 10 years ago. Oh my goodness. Right. So now that we finally got that topic out of the way, what's next?
In a moment, that'll be... India and Pakistan have flared up at each other again.
As I'm loading up the Wikipedia article, as once again, as always for decades, India and Pakistan are having skirmishes with each other. They last had one, remember, in 2019, we covered that. And once again, it's pretty much the exact same thing as last time. It's over the Kashmir area that both them and even China, to some extent, have border disputes over. So, this happened... Okay.
I remember a few years ago, a group of Chinese soldiers ran over a border and literally using their fists and punches, kicks and all that.
2020.
They just use their bare hands to beat a group of Indian soldiers to death.
Yep, that's what happened back in 2020 between India and China. So, of course, back on what's happening now... I think it's almost the same thing that happened back in 2019 between India and Pakistan. There was a terrorist attack somewhere in the Kashmir province that India claims to have control over. And I'm trying to look it up. Apparently, India accuses this terrorist group, which I think they killed a whole bunch of like Indians or Hindu people, like discrimination, hate crimes against Hindus and such, because that's a huge thing. The big thing with India and Pakistan, it's ethnic conflict, religious conflict, and border disputes when they got independence from the UK. They had to do massive demographic changes, like forcing people to leave countries and all that based upon if they're Muslim and Hindu and such. And they still beefing about all these decades later and such. But yeah, from what I remember reading up really quickly, there was a terrorist attack in Kashmir that killed Hindus, and India is accusing Pakistan of like supporting them and all that. And Pakistan, of course, denies it. But India, under fascist Modi, of course, going ahead with his stuff, he canceled a bunch of agreements with Pakistan, pretty much closed down, canceled air travel and visas from Pakistan and such, kicked out diplomats from Pakistan, and of course, just a few days ago, did airstrikes all across the border with Pakistan on supposed terrorist targets.
Yep, I remember that.
Which Pakistan is very angry about and such. But nothing's happened since. And of course, nothing should happen because both countries, remember, are nuclear armed. And we don't need them to go to nuclear war between each other. Even if it was just them with their small nuclear force. So
which side? All right, Carl. Which side do we capitulate to? They've both got nuclear weapons, so who's the one we capitulate to?
But yeah, India and Pakistan, they both have very few nuclear weapons compared to like America, and they're crude, so they suck compared to anything we have. But even with all that, if they went to war, that would cause global climate change in different ways all around the world. Even if it was just isolated to India and Pakistan, so absolutely cannot go nuclear and such on that. And it's been like almost 3 weeks now. Nothing's happened. Maybe, hopefully, nothing happens like in 2019 and such, because both know damn well they can't go nuclear. They are both going to die, and it'll be and it'll pretty much cause major harm around the entire world. So, what do you guys say about this so far?
Very dark and interesting.
Maybe we should bring up what we think about like the Kashmir dispute and all that. I don't know about
it's nuts.
I don't know about you, but I say fuck India and fuck Pakistan. How about Kashmir get independence and you both fuck off and deal with it? How about that
exactly.
one? But of course,
exactly.
That's how it should be, but we all know India and Pakistan both will never accept that, and they will undermine Kashmir's independence at every chance they can get. But that is really what needs to happen. Both are in the wrong, and their stupid brinksmanship for decades now is so stupid, and you both need to get over it. Stop playing with nuclear weapons. It's really retarded. But who are we to talk? We're just stupid Westerners in their eyes. They hate us both. Even though we're right.
Exactly.
Fucking clowns. Oh, God. So, will you two chill out, please, and stop this crap once and for all?
Exactly.
All right. So, now I guess with that out of the way, I guess on to the next topic.
Russian prisoners torturing prisoners.
Of course, the last horrible thing we have to cover before we finally get to the good stuff. And I haven't watched this video yet, but Dylan Birds, of course, covered it. Based American journalist covering the Russo-Ukrainian war. So, there's the video. According to this video that he's about to watch or cover, there was a Ukrainian journalist that was captured by the Russian Nazi state, and they tortured her to the point where they removed her eyes and her brain. Oh my God. Sounds like something the Nazis would do.
That's probably what it was.
Yep, and of course, just like we know about their concentration camps in Chechnya that killed the LGBT and such.
Yes, remember that the Chechens are Islamic Nazis.
Yep, absolutely terrible. So yeah, let's see what Dylan covers.
I wanted to cover another Russia-Ukraine story.
Careful, Dylan. Hassan will be angry with you.
From Forbidden Stories that that followed the path of Ukrainian journalist Victoria Roshenkia. Now, she was going into occupied Zaporizhia in order to document the torture of Ukraine.
Oh, and by the way, a little bit of a minor update on the Russo-Ukrainian war. Ukraine agreed to a ceasefire, like in the last week or two, to try and make Russia back down. And what does the Russian Nazi state do? Of course, not do anything and violate. And Dylan has at the bottom with a beautiful picture of fat fuck JD couch rapist fans of Russian ceasefire violations. 29 now. Maybe it shows that it's actually the Russian Nazi state that doesn't want peace, like we've been telling you all for years.
Ukrainians. That was her goal. Her goal was to go to locations where Ukrainians are being tortured, interview people, find out their pathways, find out what's going on, and cover it and document it in order, for the historical record so people know what's going on. That was her goal, and she was making trips into occupied territory to do it, which is incredibly dangerous field reporting. Incredibly dangerous. Honestly, I wouldn't do it. That's my limit.
And this is coming from someone who literally goes to the front lines to cover war journalism people. My goodness. And he's done it for 3 years now.
What you would do. I'd go
and he's going back again very soon.
But anything that gives me a high likelihood of getting captured by the Russians.
That's some Maryland balls you got there, Dylan.
To bleed out, that's terrible.
I told you we were hardy people.
Torture in a facility for months and months.
That's why everyone's jealous of us.
Is something I want no part of. It's something I want no part of. And what this investigation from Forbidden Story revealed is that it's exactly what happened to Victoria after she became a subject of the very thing that she was trying to document. And in 2024, she was abducted by the Russians. And then she was sent, according to the testimony that was collected by these Forbidden Stories investigators, to different facilities all the way until she was brought over into Russia. And according to the testimony of those who were with her, she was extremely fierce. She would call those torturing and keeping them in prison murderers, but she was also fiercely tortured. And eventually, after it was announced that the Russian government was going to transfer her after a decline in her health back to her family, she was not sent with the expected crew or group of people that she was supposed to be sent back with, the group that was transferred. And her parents were told that she was going to be sent home, but that didn't happen. What they got instead was a letter that she had been killed. Well, died. They didn't say killed, they said died. How did she die? Well, they just said she died. She just died.
And they probably raped her too.
And then from then...
Oh, absolutely.
There was no updates. There was no anything. It was radio silent about how she died, what happened, and where her body is. Is her body going to be turned over? To the point that her family doesn't even necessarily believe that she's dead, because they have yet to be provided evidence. Until recently.
I mean, I wouldn't expect anything from the Russian Nazi state, though, unfortunately.
From the Nazi terrorist organization of Russia.
And these body bags were then given to forensic investigators in Vinnytsia. Now, one of these bags that were marked NM SPAS 757, scrawled in handwriting on the bag, was labeled as an unnamed male in Russian. Now, after the bag was opened and examined by forensic investigators, they were able to find extensive damage to the arteries, and as well as other signs of what could be correlative with torture, including certain fractures and bruising and damage around the neck that could be equaling to strangulation. Now, there's also other reporting in the story about other types of torture, but this is the kicker. Like, for example, cuts from knife marks and other bruising of the ribs. But what they found is that it wasn't an unnamed male. It wasn't another male soldier. It was mislabeled. It was actually a young woman. And then after doing a DNA test and finding a small tag attached to the right arm, that had her name, they were able to identify it with the DNA test saying 99.999% chance of it being Victoria. The thing that is the biggest kicker in the story, though, I think when it comes to at least the retrieval of the body, is what wasn't there. Not what was there. The signs of torture and the bruising of the ribs. That type of stuff, I'm not to say it doesn't deserve all the rage in the world. But this has been something that's been talked about before, the type of torture people face in Russian imprisonment. I mean, the Forbidden Stories talks about the 20,000 civilians that are expected to have been detained by the Russian detainment system. The big kicker here on the body was that pieces of her brain and her eyes were missing. Pieces of her brain and eyes missing, gone. Why?
Because they're degenerates are probably looking for another rape hole.
Well, the suspicion as to why parts of her eyeballs and her brain was missing is that it was to help cover up signs of torture. And that by cutting out the part of the brain and cutting out the eyeballs, you might be able to cover up some of those more negative signs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, mind you, they still found the bruised ribs. They still found the strangulation around the neck and the broken bones. At least I believe in this area. Go read the report for yourself. They've got testimony about knife marks that her cellmates used to see in her body, cuts that were made on her. But they still tried some attempt. Cut out the eyes, cut out the brain. This is the first journalist in Ukraine to have been confirmed to have been captured by the Russians, thrown through the detention system, and killed. Now, this is not the first journalist to die in this war. There have been journalists that have died outside of Chasiv Yar. A French journalist died outside of Chasiv Yar. There have been Ukrainian journalists who died during the Battle of Kiev. Ukraine actually has a pretty high fatality rate for journalists in the war, from shrapnel attacks, bombings, etc., shooting. You get the idea.
Yeah.
This is the first time that a
couple of
journalist
times with nearly you.
captured while doing reporting, and then
Which
ended
actually
up
almost
dead after going
happened.
through the system. With these types of signs from
Reminder, Dylan
forensic
almost got
investigators
blown up by
presented
artillery
by,
before.
Of course.
Yeah, a
Ukraine
couple of
prosecutors,
times.
who are now pursuing this. When I say that there is no
That would probably make
civil
Hassan very jealous.
in
Of course.
Ukraine, for the
War
press,
nog, didn't he call him
freedom
a
of expression.
war file or something?
Yep. And a pro-natalist shell. Whatever that means.
investigative journalism.
Says
This
the
is
guy.
what I mean.
Says the loser who blames everything on America.
And apparently Hassan had a scandal recently where he started screaming about how the Houthis are based again.
Violence does not necessarily end at the end of a formal declaration of war or when the peace documents are signed. If these types of facilities are allowed to continue to operate, these torture factories that transfer these people from facility to facility, then how can we call that peace? I don't think we can.
Yep.
May I remind you all the Ukraine troops that they've killed over the years in executions that are all over Twitter, because I've seen them all over the place.
Yep. Exactly.
So, yeah, guys, what do you have to say about that? The Russian Nazi state torturing and killing prisoners like the Nazis would do.
Pretty much.
And this is why you don't appease Nazis. You put bullets in their heads, or you give Ukrainians everything they need to put bullets in their heads. And by the way, how about that? I remember all the gloat for months and months and months and months ago about how this time around the Ukrainians are going to get crushed by the Russian Nazi state. Oh, look at that. The border. Oh, look at that. The border has not changed still in the last few months. maybe you're all full of crap as always. Fucking morons. Alright,
Yep.
so after that terrifying, depressing thing, now can we get to actual funny things, please?
Trump has a complete brain dead meltdown.
Oh, when does he not? So, yeah. Kyle's covering this, of course, a 30-minute video of Trump in a interview with some news agency in America, and apparently he had a complete meltdown and sounded like a complete retard, which is every day for him. But we'll see how bad this is for us to laugh.
This is gonna be wild.
The show. I got
Kyle!
for you today.
Stop it!
Make these its own video!
2.5 minutes!
Able to get it?
Which, hey, compared to last time, that's actually half the time. Good progress, Kyle!
Interview with Donald Trump. And, I mean, man, the takeaway from this is nobody has ever lied more than this man lies. That's point number one. Point
30,000 lies in his first term alone.
number two is he's in a hermetically sealed bubble where apparently the only people who are allowed to talk to him, it's not even people, it's one person. It's Stephen Miller, who of course is Trump's
He might even be more brain dead than him now.
So this interview was wall to wall, absolute insanity, and I'm going to walk you through it. So let's start with this one. This is at the beginning. Now, as you're listening to this, I want you to imagine if it was Joe Biden who said the same thing. What would the reaction be? Let's watch.
Conservatives would have a meltdown, and then they would deny that Trump's brain dead when he's also brain dead.
I'd like to see it done. I have a little sweet spot in my heart because, as you know, I won.
What sweetheart you have,
by
you idiot?
36 points. That's a lot. No Republican ever won young people, and I won it by 36 points. And I focused on TikTok.
No, you didn't.
Just pause to point out. That's a lie. He's not messing up. It's not a slip up. It's not an accident. He is lying, and he
Also, you tried to ban TikTok, pal. Remember that in 2020?
knows that he's lying. He's been saying this for so long now, and the fact that Kristen Welker didn't check him on it is absolutely embarrassing and humiliating, and it shows that Trump is graded on a curve, and he's held to a lower standard than any other politician.
And this is why the mainstream media is actually pro-Trump people, not anti him, like all you idiot conservatives lie about.
Because the actual number, so there's two different studies that looked at it, or one was an exit poll, the other was a study, but a Tufts University study said that Kamala won the youth vote, which is basically 29 and under. Kamala won that by 4 points. But if you go by the exit polls, she won by anywhere from 11 points to 13 points. In other words, there is no way you can measure it. Wherein Trump won the youth vote by 36 points. That's completely and utterly and shamelessly made up. So right off the bat, this is the tone that's set for the rest of the interview. Just a shameless, disgusting, flat-out liar who's going to continue to lie through his teeth relentlessly. Guys, I'm at the point, I don't even know what the value is of interviewing him. I understand he's the president of the United States. I understand he's the most powerful person on earth. I get all of that.
He's a
but
clown. You should make fun of him instead.
He's an absolute tsunami of utter horseshit. What's the point?
Make fun of him,
Especially if
he
you're
has a
not going
tiny
to
dick.
correct him when he says these things. I'm not done yet. This gets worse.
No Republican ever won young people, and I won it by 36 points. And I focused on TikTok. So,
you focused on TikTok by trying to ban it, you retard.
I shouldn't say this, but I have a little warm spot in my heart for TikTok.
I have
Tic-tac! Fucking moron! I wish all you did was do tic-tac all day, and then I would crush you every time because you're such an idiot.
little warm spot in my heart for tic-tac. He called TikTok tic-tac. This
and
is
what
not the
warm
first
heart
time
do you
he's
have?
called TikTok
Your heart is
tic-tac.
as cold as a creek.
He's done it multiple times. Again, if this was Joe Biden, you would have 7 breaking news stories in your face right now explaining how he's not mentally fit, he's got to go, this isn't working out.
Maybe Trump's already brain dead people, like we told you about, and he should be disqualified.
Now it's Trump, and this is
Let's
not
impeach
even a
him
blip on
already.
the radar. In fact, the only place you're going to hear about this is right here on this show. We will
And
be the
here.
only ones talking about this.
Yep.
Because
here as
again,
well.
he hits you with a tsunami of horseshit, so people have to pick and choose their battles. I don't do that. I don't have to do that. We'll fight all the battles. So apparently, some of these videos did not make it onto TV. So I guess they released an online version and they released a TV version. The TV version was edited. Now, is Trump going to sue because they edited his own interview?
Oh,
because remember, he sued, what was it, CBS, because they edited a Kamala Harris interview? Are you going to sue now? Because they edited your interview, by the way they edited this absolutely made him look better. They kept this out of there. Now, maybe they...
Again, pro-Trump people.
Kept this out of there because there's legal liability because this is such a total fucking lie, but here we go.
You know, my 4 years were phenomenal, as you know. The stock market.
Phenomenal. You were stupid and you were horrible. So that's what you mean by phenomenal. You were phenomenally bad.
In fact, even though we had to go through the COVID thing, that horrible situation
that you made worse because you were a fucking moron
with COVID.
Yeah.
We did numbers, and when I gave it over, when I handed it over, the election was rigged, and
the election was not rigged, so shut the fuck up.
Because of that, we had a lot of problems, by the way. But when I handed it over, what happened? The market was higher than it was just previous to COVID coming in.
I highly doubt that, and no.
Nobody could believe it. The stock market I'm talking about.
I don't want to look back, but you did take your case to court about that. You took your case to court about your allegations against the election. Let me ask you,
There's no question about it. The election was rigged.
No, it's not. So shut up, you Karen.
The facts are in, and it's still being litigated.
You did take your case to court more than 60 times and didn't win those cases.
I won a lot of court cases.
Just to button that up, though, sir.
They lost nearly every single court case. There was like one or two that they won, and the only reason they won it was on like procedural grounds. It had nothing to do with the substance. They lost almost every single of the 60-plus court cases.
Biden won. Deal with it.
Let's talk about here and now. Let's talk about
the
here and now.
election of 2020.
Let's not talk about. Let's talk about here and
now.
now.
And also, why are you still crying about 2020? You're president again. So shut up and get over it, you fucking moron. You won't shut up about anything.
What's the point of this?
Yeah, really. What is the point?
Why even do this interview?
Why are you still crying about 2020?
But if every
you
time
lost,
he sits in
you're
front of
back
you,
in
he
still,
literally
so
doesn't
shut
say
up.
a single thing that's true.
Yep, exactly.
I don't understand what the point is. Guys, how many times have we gone through this? Rudy Giuliani was running around declaring that the election was fraudulent. Then he got in front of a court and he literally said to the court, "We're not alleging fraud." Why?
And along with sexually harassing women in courts,
matters.
remember?
Facts actually matter. You can't get away with being a slimy little weasel bullshitter. We also had the Arizona audit. They swore up and down they won Arizona. So Arizona did an audit, and they found out not only did Biden win, he ended up winning by more than what we thought he won by on Election Day.
Forcing women to blow him, remember?
None of this is true. I want to reiterate. What is the fucking point of doing this interview if this is what it's going to be like? I know it sounds like a totally radical idea, but nobody should interview Trump anymore. Nobody should. Why?
No, you should interview him, but make fun of him instead, like I would.
Dude, why would you? There's no reason to do it.
Destroy him. Just mock him. Just mock and belittle him constantly. Interrupt him all the time. Make sure he gets nothing out.
I'll make fun that he's never pleased a woman before, unlike me.
To take a deep dive into the very few wrinkles of his brain. And
I'll make fun of his dad as an orangutan, like Phil Maher did.
Is that this guy has absolutely no idea.
I'll make fun he has orgy with Pootler and Pooh Bear G.
Cost. How long should people expect that transition to last, Mr. President?
I can't tell you that. I can tell you that we're making a lot of money. We're doing great. Again, we're losing more than $5 billion a day. $5 billion a day. You don't talk about that.
What are you even talking about?
And right now, we're going to be at a point very soon where we're making money every day. Look,
what are you even talking about, you idiot?
Hundreds of billions of dollars with
China.
Now we're essentially
he don't even know what he's saying
with China.
Of course he
doesn't. It's about the tariffs. Okay, it's about the tariffs. No. You don't. The point of tariffs aren't supposed to make money, you moron. How about that?
Exactly.
Maybe you should let Biden do tariffs because he was based upon it, unlike you.
Hundreds of billions of dollars. Very simple.
No. Tariffs are not supposed to make money, you moron. It's supposed to de-incentivize imports and encourage domestic production. And if the tariffs work to a point where people stop getting imports, you know what that means? You get less money from the tariffs because they're doing their job. Fucking moron.
It is not very simple. He doesn't understand how trade works.
Because he's a moron!
He doesn't believe anything. He doesn't understand anything.
Because he's an idiot, people. Do you see how brain dead he is? Trumpsters, if you're watching, do you see how stupid he is? He's a retard, like you are.
To buy TVs that are manufactured in China, that they're getting one over on us, and they're beating us, and we're getting nothing out of that. No, the reality is, we get the TVs. He really thinks if you have a trade deficit with another country, that they're screwing you over. That is not at all how this works.
I mean, it still would be better if there was no trade
goods and
deficit.
services. You give them cash, and you get something material in return.
But at least
and
Kyle's
obviously the
explained
people
better
who
on like
are buying a
idiot
TV,
Trump.
they want to buy the TV.
That's saying something.
And so now he's bragging about basically having a total embargo on China and no trade with China. Well, as you're about to see, and we've been warned about this, very soon you're going to start seeing empty shelves at Walmart and Target and all these different stores because we do a tremendous amount of trade with China. Now, on the flip side, their exports, I think the U.S. is only, 13% or 14% of their exports? So they can make up for that loss. They can make up for it. Now, us, on the other hand, we're just screwed in a scenario like that. We are largely a consumer economy. Because we're the world reserve currency, we were in this privileged position where we ended up getting a lot of cheap goods for people to purchase. Right? Well, now the cheap goods are going away. We've had massive inflation for housing, healthcare, and education. Massive inflation in those sectors. Well, now he's got no plan to fix that. So we're going to have massive inflation in that area and also massive inflation for consumer goods. We're just about to get screwed. He has no idea how trade works. Nobody's ever sat him down and told him a trade deficit is not by definition a bad thing. It is not a bad thing. Oh my God, I'm going to lose it, bro. I'm still not done. So Trump repeated this line. I really think this line is going to go down in history. I really think Democrats could use this in attack ads from now until the end of time because...
Oh yeah, this is what he said was really, really, really stupid people, so you better get ready, Trumpsters.
Here he is, and again, I want you to imagine if a Democrat said the thing that he's about to say, I want you to imagine the reaction. Here he is talking about what your children are entitled to.
You said, quote, I'm going to quote what you said, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30.
Yeah.
And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. Are you saying that your tariffs will cause some prices to go up?
No, I think the tariffs are going to be great for us because it's going to make us rich.
Immediately a contradiction. Again, what's the point of having this conversation? What's the point of this interview? There is no point of this interview. This is humiliating. This is embarrassing. Half the time he admits, yeah, we're going to have some temporary pain. The price is going to go up. And then the other half of the time when somebody says that to him directly, he's like, actually, no, it's not even going to make the prices go up at all. I don't even know what you're talking.
See why I mean, people, how much of a fucking moron he is?
That's why he goes back and forth.
Exactly.
He's so great for manufacturing. And then when he
that's why you never vote for him, you fucking morons.
Takes him off. He goes, art of the deal.
You suck up and vote for Kamala like I was forced
I wrote him
to.
back. Art of the deal. You have to pick one. It's like, he really...
And that goes for you idiot, dumb leftists, too.
He is like a toddler because there's no commitment to logic or consistency or reason. He just flip-flops like a fish fresh out of water with every time he opens his mouth.
But you said some dolls are...
He's a freaking squid and glow squid that should die and drown.
going to cost more. Isn't that an acknowledgement that some prices will go up?
I don't think a beautiful baby girl that's 11 years old.
Oh, the way he said that, too. Beautiful baby girl. Oh.
Needs to have 30 dolls. I think they can have 3 dolls or 4 dolls because...
So, being anti-consumerism, which is like American pastime, pal? Look, maybe Americans don't need to have all this consumer stuff. Maybe you're right in that regard. But guess what? Americans want that. So, you're going to have to deal with it in that regard. Do I need to have, like, all my video games? No. Do I want them? Yes. And that's all that matters to me.
Because what we were doing with China was just unbelievable. We had a trade deficit of hundreds of billions of dollars with China.
When you say they could have $3 instead of $30, are you saying Americans could see empty store shelves?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just
which has been happening recently. Which has been happening recently in California.
Saying they don't need to have $30. They can have 3. They don't need to have 250 pencils. They can have 5.
They don't need to have 250 pencils. They can have 5. They don't need...
schools and places like that would beg to differ on that one, pal.
They need to have $30. They could have 3. Again, imagine Barack Obama said this. Imagine Joe Biden said, if Bernie Sanders said this, the CIA would have cooed him instantly. Instantly. But he says this.
Consumerism is in the blood of every American, pal.
This is an insane thing to say. Because again, the one saving grace of this country for all these years, the one promise of neoliberalism that it delivered, is at least you're going to get cheap consumer goods.
That, of course, you don't have high-paid jobs to afford either way.
The country's being held together with duct tape and bubblegum. That was the one thing that was keeping it together, because everything else,
which
housing,
is why
healthcare,
free trade
education,
sucks
all the
ass.
necessities, they are super fucking expensive.
Exactly.
And oh my God, another thing too that sucks about Trump's tariffs crap is that he's making free trade all of a sudden popular among Democrats, which I absolutely hate. Fuck you, Trump, in that regard. Fuck free trade.
He's destroying that too. And yet again, you get the idea that He doesn't know what a trade deficit is. He thinks deficit
because he's a
bad.
moron,
if
people.
you think it doesn't get more absurd,
exactly.
Holy cow!
How
you got
have you not
another
heard
thing
this
coming.
and realized?
Listen to
Oh my
this
goodness,
one.
he is so
When does it become
stupid.
the Trump economy?
It partially is right now. I think the good parts are the Trump economy and the bad parts are the Biden economy.
I think the good part...
the good parts of the Trump economy are the bad parts of the Biden economy. What the fuck is
Pretty much. Yeah, that's all he did.
God, how do you not see how stupid he is, people? My goodness.
Are the Trump economy, and the bad parts are the Biden economy. I'm not sure we've ever had a president with this low of an IQ before. And I mean that. You can.
He's petarded.
Exactly.
And if all of you don't get the joke, I'm sure you know Family Guy, right?
Yes.
There was an episode where Pierre had his IQ checked, and he was so stupid he went beyond like mentally retarded. There was a whole category made for him. He had negative IQ. That was called petarded.
To go through the history of the United States of America.
Yes, reminds me of the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Canonically, Billy has an IQ of -5.
That's because his brain is his nose, remember?
Yeah.
Utter those words and not understand.
Gee, I wonder where he got from. Look at you, Harold.
Immediately
who's too busy
ridiculous
eating 12 pizzas.
So you're going to take credit for the good parts and blame Biden for the bad parts, when, by the way, as everybody knows, anybody with a brain, of course, Trump did massive economic changes. He owns all of this. Whatever happens as a result of his drastic actions on using, a national emergency justification, that's on you, dog. Look, at this point, I said it before, I'll say it again. At this point, if you're left supporting him, you own this. You own all of this. You don't get to
look at you,
weasel out
hillbilly,
and be like, oh yeah, whatever.
Hillbilly.
Yeah, then I realize it. No, everything's already shit. And that's why
when we
his
tell you
approval
not
rating
to
is
support
collapsing. He's in the 30s
conservatism,
now.
you instantly listen.
And
Conservatism
sucks ass. But how can anybody watch this and go, yeah, it really is.
Yeah, when you watch this, you gotta admit, yeah, Trump is fucking retarded. We can't support him more after this.
Really is the way to describe it.
He is so stupid.
There's no other way around it. I mean, they have all other previous.
Wouldn't it have been nice to have boring-ass Kamala right now? I would take that.
Over Christianity.
And then we can have base Shuckle Walls in the
They
future.
support this guy over Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
And his ideology.
Or he can run in 2028. That would be also very good.
You got some people saying when Trump
and he'll make fun of you weirdos all the time because you're all couch rapist weirdos
created around him.
Yeah. Exactly.
I've never seen anything
Remember
like it.
things as pedocon theory in that as well.
And then we're gonna get to a pedo and Matt Walsh coming up.
Come on, the bad parts are the other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's not even an attempt to break it down logically using details. Like, here's why I own the good parts. Here's why they own them. There's none of that because he's coping. This is cope. This is immense cope. All right, ready? We got more. Another tsunami of lies here.
Prices are already going up on some popular items.
Whoa.
Tires, strollers.
This is such a dishonest interview already.
Oh, shut up, Trump, you coping baby. My goodness. Does baby need a bottle?
Plus ratio, you moron.
Prices are down for oil. Prices are down for all
no,
energy.
they're not, pal. They were going down before you were elected because I had to show Hillbilly that to own him.
Prices are down at tremendous numbers.
The prices are down at tremendous numbers. God, he's such an idiot.
No,
also,
no, not. He literally lives in the Twilight Zone.
For gasoline, and let me tell you, when you have the big thing, what he did, he spent like a stupid person, which he was, but he spent like a very stupid person, and that was bad for inflation. But what really killed us,
buddy, that was your responsibility too with the stimulus in that regard for COVID. So you're just as responsible as old man Biden. How about that one?
Inflation was
and your tariffs, which you suck at, that's also drive up prices and all that stuff. You are just as guilty as you accuse Biden of. So deal with it.
Yeah,
it went up to $3.90, even $4, and in California $5 and $6, right? Okay. I have it down to $1.98 in many states right now.
He got gas down to $1.98 in several states. You're so full of shit.
They're more like
$7.50. Much lower on energy.
God, he's such an idiot, people.
Ahead of my prediction because I really thought I could get it down into the 250s. We have it down at $1.98 in numerous places.
That's a total lie. You can go look this up yourself.
Let me tell you where it's at, where I'm at. Oh, somewhere between 320 to 330, when on election day it was under 290.
So, the lowest average gas price in this country is in the state of Mississippi, and it's $2.66. Hey, everything's going down. All these things are going down. None of that, literally none of that is true. None of that is true.
Gee, what else
and
to
again,
do?
Guys, I mean...
Remember, 30,000 lies in first term alone. That means...
Yep.
Maybe are you in the mood to do some math? How many lies would that be per day in a 4-year term?
Yeah, I can do that. 365.25 times 4, 1461. That is an average of 21 lies a day.
I mean, are you surprised? If anything, I'm surprised.
No.
I thought that would be more than that.
I know this might come across as tedious, but at the same time, I really feel it in my heart and soul now. Nobody should be interviewing him. There's no reason, if the whole...
Oh, we can interview him. We just make fun of him instead.
The whole thing is him lying and bullshitting and then, like, being openly fascist. What is the point? There
Best
is
way
no
to crush a
point
Nazi?
to this.
Make fun of
All
him.
right, this is one of the things that Trump says all the time, which drives me crazy. The Democrats don't really talk about it. The media doesn't really talk about it.
Because the media is pro-Trump.
Because this is
Because the media loves Donald Trump, and
You and
they
I
hate
talked,
everyone to the
and
right
I
of
asked you
him.
if you would rule out military
Everyone
force
to
to
the left
take
of him.
Greenland, and you said no, you don't rule out anything. Would you rule out military force to take Canada?
Well, I think we're not going to ever get to that point. It could happen. Something.
How about maybe you don't threaten Canada in the first place? Because after all, that's why the
Yeah.
liberals won, pal. Your fault. But again, thank you for doing that.
Could happen with Greenland. I'll be honest. We need that for national and international security.
No. It's Greenland is part of Denmark, and you're going to deal with it.
I think it's
Canada?
highly
Exactly.
unlikely. I don't see it with Canada. I just don't see it. I have to be honest with you.
So,
Then maybe you should shut the fuck up, pal. Because no one wants to hear your trolling bullshit.
interesting, backing off of the military threats against Canada.
Exactly.
Why is that? Well, the speculation is Mark Carney, the new Prime Minister of Canada, who just won his election and
Again, thank you, Trump. That's your fault. The liberals won in Canada. And the Labour in Australia. That's all your fault.
destroyed Pierre Poilievre, who's the Trump candidate. He allegedly threatened the U.S. government and said, we will dump our U.S. bonds if you keep talking like that, which would make the dollar absolutely plummet. So I view this as further validation.
And also, Mexico's president scared the shit out of Trump recently.
Of that theory, because Trump would not back down unless he felt like the other side had a Trump card, no pun intended. And they kind of do. And they kind of do.
Remember when you said Zelensky had no cards and you had all the cards? Trump looks like you're full of shit
Imagine
again.
any other president saying, maybe
He's a
I'm not
fucking
taking opposite,
moron,
maybe
people.
military action in Greenland, maybe
Exactly.
we'll do that.
Stupid
This is a
dipshit
guy who half the
retard.
time on the campaign
That's
trail
being made fun of.
pretended like Kamala Harris was a bigger warmonger than him.
God forbid I ever run against him. He will never last a chance against me because he's such a moron.
He would say, Liz Cheney is a disgusting, all she wants to do is shoot people, that's all she...
Cheney did suck. You suck too.
Kamala Harris is a warmonger, she's just a
You're a warmonger too.
warmonger. Here he is.
Of course.
saying,
Everything
maybe
is
I'll
projection with conservatives.
Let's see. Encouraging Israel to murder Palestinians, encouraging them to colonize Gaza and the West Bank, encourage them to do shit with Iran, and plan on potentially trying to do shit with Iran in the future, helping Russia, Nazi state kill Ukrainians.
China to start World War III.
What was the other things? Oh yeah, Canada, Greenland, Mexico, Panama, list keeps going.
Invade Greenland and steal it. By the way, when I tell you that there's a certain percentage of TFGs, too far gones, who are in Trump's cult, where do I get those numbers from? I actually used this issue of Greenland because pollsters asked, should the U.S. steal Greenland? The low number was 26%, the high number was 33%. So somewhere in that realm are the people who...
You are all morons if you support America taking over Greenland. How do you
will never, under any circumstances, abandon Trump. Because you can rationalize...
I'd say it's about 25% of the country who believes that every single country on the planet should be invaded and turned into America.
I think they're playing too much Age of History free.
Militarily stealing Greenland.
And they're the ones that get destroyed because they suck at the game, unlike me.
there's like literally no hope for you. There's no string of words I could put together, no matter how convincing and persuasive, to make you go, yeah, you know what, I think you're right. But I still haven't even gotten to the most devastating part of this interview. It speaks for itself. Here we go.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have
You don't know if the president has to uphold the Constitution.
brilliant lawyers that work for me. And they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said.
So first of all, they didn't do that. It was 9-0.
Yeah, literally 9-0 recently told Trump that he can't kick out American citizens, and is he listening to them? Oh, right. No, he's not.
Or that you have to facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who's an innocent guy who was incorrectly sent to the slave labor gulag concentration camp in El Salvador. That's point number one. Point number two, he just said, I don't know if we have to follow due process. I don't know if I'm supposed to follow the Constitution.
Yeah, you're supposed
to. You don't
to.
know? Look, everybody needs to understand something. He owns this. He owns all of this. The idea, and I've seen this spread around a lot recently, like, oh, he's just being misled by the people around him, and Stephen Miller is lying to him all the time. Look, that's partly true. That's partly true. But you think Donald Trump, a two-term president of the United States of America, doesn't know that it's his obligation and duty and responsibility to follow the Constitution? Fucking of course he knows that. He's attacked Democrats by saying they don't even believe in the Constitution. They don't even believe in it. And then here he is. This is right up there with when he said we need to terminate all rules, regulations, and articles in the Constitution to get me back in office. That's what remember when he said that after the 2020 election? He's like, look, they stole it, so terminate all rules, regulations, and articles to get me back in power. This is right up there with that. I don't know if I'm supposed to allow people to have due process. I don't know if I'm supposed to follow the Constitution.
Because I want to be a dictator like Daddy Pootler and Pooh Bear
If you can't admit that this man is a fascist, you're just a liar, right? It's not even like, at this point, you can innocently believe that. Like, oh, I'm just ignorant, I don't know the specifics, so I don't think he's... No. At this point, there is no excuse. If you don't think he's a fascist, you're just fucking wrong. You're just wrong. You're just lying. You're nefarious. You are nefarious in that scenario. You are evil in that scenario, and you support this. I don't know if I'm supposed to... Oh, you don't know if you're supposed to follow the Constitution. Again, I know I made this point like 7 times in this segment alone. But imagine if it was Joe Biden or Barack Obama or any Democratic president or any Democratic candidate who uttered those words. It would be on Fox News, hair on fire, breaking news coverage for fucking 4 days straight. They would never shut the fuck up about it. They would say, this disqualifies this person from being president of the United States. Here we are with Trump. What does he commit? 30 different crimes per day? Already committed so many impeachable offenses and criminal offenses? And there's not even any chatter of impeachment. This is not something the media talks about all the time. This is not something, not a single Republican has flipped on him to that degree where they say, you know what, I think he's got to go. But here he is, I don't know if I'm supposed to follow
will never abandon him.
Due process or the Constitution. You have got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. I got one more for you here. This is, yet again, quiet part out loud. Listen to this.
And I want to know what you think about that. Are you comfortable with the country potentially dipping into a recession for a period of time if you are able to achieve your long-term goals?
Well, you know, you say some people on Wall Street say, well, I tell you something else. Some people on Wall Street say that we're going to have the greatest economy in history.
That's a total lie. I don't know a single person on Wall Street who's saying, not a single person is saying that. Literally all of them are saying, oh, we're cooked. Now, you know what they're saying now? Now they're saying best case scenario is a recession. Best case scenario. Which begs the question.
Worst case scenario is complete economic collapse.
I think we all know what worst case is. And I think we all know that is more likely where we're heading. So that, yet again, flat out lie. There's no reason, there's no point.
Only thing we can hope if that happens, that it'll permanently kill Republicans forever and never vote for him again, people.
In interviewing this man. Imagine what would happen. He would like...
Y'all remember the Great Recession that led to Obama's explosive victory? I sure do.
If he doesn't have a camera on him 24/7.
I want that permanently.
Imagine if everybody in the White House press corps said, we're done traveling with you on Air Force One. We don't want to fucking cover your bullshit anymore. We're done even going to the events where the press asked the White House press secretary the questions. We're done with all that. We're gonna cover you the way you should have been covered from day one, which is objectively, not neutral, not like, oh, both sides, and let's talk about both sides and criticize both sides.
I want him to be made fun of by everyone.
We're not going to do false equivalence. We're not going to do neutrality. We're going to do objectivity, which is telling the truth no matter what. And if you are telling the truth about this regime,
manhood.
You have to say
he's a fake
they
man.
are 100% fascist. There's no way around it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. They lie relentlessly. They are fascist, and they're doing a robber baron coup, and it's the most corrupt regime in American history. And so, guess what? That might require more distance from the press, where they can start telling the truth more. Every single one.
I've gotten to see naked women unlike him, probably.
Again, and we should immediately
at least consensually.
Proceedings, and we should do a full court press in the media explaining the detailed reasons why this guy can't remain in power.
Elongated
Here he is yet
that
again.
tries to bribe women to see him naked.
Some people on Wall Street say actually everything's great.
They probably try to bribe
do they say
underage
everything is
girls
great?
as young as prepubescent to do that as well.
I wonder if Matt Walsh gave him that idea.
Just like how unemployment is skyrocketing.
Considering at least two of his,
and shelves are about
considering
to be
two of his, three of his kids are either in the age group or past that, or were in that age group where they're usually abused, that would not surprise me.
Is that great?
Why don't you talk about them? Because some people on Wall Street say this is
well, that's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at, though. It's the same question.
Yeah, there are many people on Wall Street say this is going to be the greatest windfall ever happened.
And that's my question.
Remember
the
this.
long term.
Yeah.
Is it okay in the short term to have a recession?
This. Look.
Even this question drives me crazy. Like assuming the best possible scenario in order to ask him what's effectively a softball. Oh yeah, even if there is short-term pain, is it worth it in the long run? Well, gee, Kristen Welker, I wonder what he's going to say to that. All right, here we go, one more time.
And that's my question,
Remember
the
this.
long term.
Yeah.
Is it okay in the short term to have a recession?
This. Look, everything's okay. What we are,
it's good to have a recession.
I think we're going to do fantastic.
So he says, yeah, everything's okay. When asked, is it okay to have a recession? Yeah, everything's okay. Any other president, no matter which party they're in, if the United States economy craters and we go into a recession, they spend all day, every day, 24/7, talking to experts, figuring out what's the best path forward. How do we alleviate the pain for the American people? What's our way out of this? How much stimulus do we do, right? What do we do with the tax system? What should the Fed be doing at this moment? Any president with bare minimum competence, at the very least, sees the problem, recognizes the problem, and tries to come up with a way to address it. We might not agree with how they end up addressing it, but they're focused on that problem. Here he is going, yeah, a recession's okay. So in other words, when we start seeing the horror stories, as we already are, by the way, but they're going to get worse, of the empty shelves and all the people getting laid off and the collapse of global trade and all the truckers losing their jobs and everybody in retail losing their jobs, when we start seeing that,
it's just everybody losing their jobs.
This is going to be his reaction. His reaction is going to be, everything's fine, everything's okay, everything's actually great. I don't know what you're talking about. There's no problem here. He's gonna pretend like everything is hunky-dory and everything is going smoothly, and don't worry, if you're experiencing any problems, it'll be short-term. By the way, when the shit hits the fan, it's not like in the Trump era, well, it's okay because people will be able to go get their unemployment. Old people will be able to rely on their Social Security. Lower income people, they'll be able to rely on their Medicaid because they're cutting all that too. So no social safety net, full austerity, plus the private market imploding. This is a perfect storm for a worst case scenario and pain the likes of which we haven't seen since the Great Depression in this country. And the entire time, this is why I call him a right-wing postmodernist. What does that mean?
The depression's only mid.
Doesn't believe in objective.
They're talking about potential complete economic collapse where
narrative and story and perception
every single
more than he
person
believes
is
in the
out
world
of
of
work.
facts. And so he twists everything to his own ends. And so he'll look at that and just rationalize it and justify it. Actually, things are great. Actually, things are wonderful. You just wait. This is going to go great. This is going to go amazing.
Never will because you're a retard.
We've never been in a position this bad in modern American history. I can say that for sure. And again, I want to reiterate this point because it's super important. There is no reason to be doing this. There's no reason. What's the point of an interview if literally 100% of the words that come out of his mouth are just lies? What's the point? Because At some point, it becomes untenable to even, if you're the one sitting across from him, literally fact check every single thing he says. It becomes tedious. You start to look annoying. Then you have to worry about the optics of how the audience... I understand that, right? But you have a duty, you have a responsibility in the media to make sure people get the truth. And so at the end of the day, there is no point in talking. There's no point. So it's enough already. It's enough already. Somehow, he manages to go lower and lower every day. Like I said, in all of his time, he's
plunging through the core of the Earth. He's plunging through, trying to reach the core of Jupiter.
Somehow it's getting worse and worse, right? You could argue the ABC interview with...
Hopefully the pressure would crush him.
Jerry Moran, that I think that's his name, that was like his worst interview to date. And then this one somehow eclipsed even that one. So the trajectory we're on is devastating. Hey, y'all, do me a favor.
Oh, my goodness. So, yeah, what do you all have to say about that? My goodness, what a complete embarrassment he is. He is such an idiot.
Yep.
This is what you all voted for,
that's
you
no
idiots.
surprise.
You could have just sucked it up and voted for Kamala like I did. But no, every one of you were fucking morons. All right. So now, I think it's time to laugh at Matt Walsh, shall we?
Yes, Matt Walsh being... no, it's not Matt Walsh. It's Matt Walsh.
So, yeah, recently in the news, some stupid racist Karen cunt spewed out racial slurs to a minority 5-year-old who was autistic and all that. And of course, conservatives defended her by doing like a GoFundMe campaign and giving her, last I checked, over $700,000. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yep.
And of course, Matt Walsh defended because he's a moron and probably racist too. So yeah, let's see the stupid BS he makes excuses for.
It warrants the total word to a child in a moment of anger is bad. Is it so bad that it warrants the total and permanent destruction of a person's life? And we all know how this script ends. The offender, in a desperate attempt to call off the dogs, tearfully apologizes and begs for mercy, a mercy that they surely will not receive. But that is where the
when you're a cunt like she was,
twist
you
ending
really shouldn't
comes into
expect
play.
mercy.
Because Shiloh Hendricks did not apologize. Instead, she posted a crowdfunding campaign on Give, Send, Go, where she doubled down and defended her actions and asked for help to
I'll
relocate
double down on
and
being
give
a
her family to
racist.
safety.
Yay!
It is, in the end,
double down on being
net
a racist
positive
fucking
that this woman has
Nazi.
raised $500,000. I'm glad she has.
Enslow for the next 20 minutes.
And Matt Walsh and wish they could throw out the N-word.
You just heard self-proclaimed theocratic fascist
absolutely.
Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire defend a woman named Shiloh Hendricks who went viral for calling a child a racial slur while she was at Soldiers Field Memorial Park in Rochester, Minnesota. And in said video, she proceeds to call the man filming and confronting her the same racial slur multiple times, as you're going to see.
Call him a child? Did you call the child the word? It is my own business. You call him a... Okay, why don't you have the boss say it right now again?
The finger too?
Okay. All right, that's what you say.
She looked so happy throwing out the N-word, people.
Nobody dig into your shit. That little kid, you call him a... The little child? Are you about to hit him? You chase him here?
He took my son's stuff.
So that gives you the right to call the child 5-year-old and the N-word.
If that's what he's going to
That's what you're going to call him.
That's what he's going to ask.
Yeah, of course.
You know, that's the hate
what they
speech.
say.
And you can be recorded for that.
I don't give a shit.
Okay, don't care if you're recorded. Okay,
we'll see about
then
that
don't
with the
maybe
internet
I won't make
about
fun
you.
of you.
Yeah.
Goodness.
So, she, I
She's
guess,
more
thought that
vicious
it was
than
justified
Booth calling
to call
my
a
boss
black
Summer.
child who's reportedly neurodivergent a racial slur because he took something from her diaper bag.
Is that really warrant calling a kid a racial slur for that reason? Is that really warranted? I say no.
Lady,
It is because she's a racist
child,
piece of
and you're a
shit.
fucking adult. See, when I was his age, I stole something from the store myself. It was a little keychain of a seal wearing a vest. I liked it. Nobody noticed, but in the event an adult caught me, I suspect that 5-year-old me wouldn't have been treated the same way for obvious reasons. Now, when my mom found out, she scolded me and she explained to me that you can't take things that don't
White
belong to
privilege
you,
in action there,
and I
Mike?
didn't do it again. Lesson learned.
Yeah.
I was 5, maybe
Yeah.
6. Why couldn't this lady, who's a mother herself, explain this to the child in the same way that my mom explained that to me?
It's because
We
she's a
know the answer
racist
to that
piece of
question.
shit.
It's because
Who
loves saying the N-word.
And she looked very gleeful when she threw it out too.
this woman is a
Oh,
racist piece of
absolutely.
shit. That's why. She's a degenerate lowlife who thought that it was appropriate to accost a child.
And Trump encourages people to do this crap, people.
Because he took something from her fucking
Because he's a racist too.
What do you even say to that? Now, after that video went viral, she had no remorse. In fact, she launched a Give, Send, Go, which is the right-wing equivalent of GoFundMe, where she not only asks for money to relocate because she says she was doxxed, but she doubles down on the racism, saying, I called the kid out for what he was. This woman is fucking unbelievable. Now, at the time that I record this video, she has managed to raise more than $700,000, I repeat, for calling a kid a racial slur. And she received messages of support from white supremacists and neo-Nazis like this that say, send them back to Africa. Here's your crown, queen. Stand up to human trash. F your double standards. This person posted an anagram of F and
Nuck figures for $50. My goodness, people.
Words and got 76 hearts, so that one's pretty popular. Fed up and white. Black is whack. Kiss my white ass. Call them what they are. Second dono to spite them. N-words crashing out. Some of the top donors, you can still see this.
Someone gave... Oh my god. This list right here showing people giving her $2,000 each time. My god, people. Imagine giving this crazy woman $2,000. You really are going to give $2,000 to a racist? Really? Couldn't it be something more?
Because they're racist pieces of shit.
Can't you think of something better to spend $2,000 on? I could get my whole... Dude, $2,000, I'd get my whole computer spruced up big time, for God's sake.
Successfully tried to spell out the N-word. White lives matter, tired of this NBS. This person says we need to come together, but I suspect that they're not talking about all of humanity coming together. Now, even though this reaction isn't necessarily surprising, especially in 2025 America, I've got to say, seeing this reaction to a racist lady accosting a child genuinely made me feel depressed. Nonetheless, Matt Walsh apparently saw that video and had the opposite reaction. He was really encouraged by the response and chose to defend that lady with his full chest on his platform with millions of subscribers.
As he pretends to look like a hiker.
Conservatives, including Ben Shapiro, his boss.
And the funny thing is, Mike has Matt Walsh's picture in the background, and oh my god, they look so similar. In fact, I'm print screening that to show you later.
Thought that behavior was indefensible.
Oh my god, they look so close to each other.
Did both sides denunciation of people donating to her. But
also, imagine somehow being better. Imagine Benny Boy, of all people, being better than you on this topic. Wow.
Matt Walsh, however, chose to go in the entirely opposite direction and claims that the success of this woman's Give, Send, Go actually symbolizes a turning point for the country in a really good way, of course.
I will not be joining with some of my conservative friends in wagging my finger at her donors, and I'll explain why.
Because you're racist, just say that.
First of all, she does have a legitimate need for the money. The mob is truly trying to get her killed.
Who probably goes around looking for black people to call the N-word.
That a woman should have her life threatened for saying a word, even a bad one. Now, you could say freedom of speech, but not freedom from consequences for your speech, all you want. But if losing your livelihood and having your house burned down is a consequence of your speech, then you do not have free speech.
Maybe that's why you shouldn't throw out racial slurs then?
Supporting free speech means supporting someone's ability to speak without having their family murdered for it.
Her family isn't gonna get killed because she's racist. Stop hyperventilating.
The point is that the only way to put an end to
because he's trying to incite violence against people.
Like he tried to do with transgender hospitals years ago.
The routine where the outrage mob mobilizes and assembles to destroy somebody's life is to disincentivize.
I mean, are we destroying her life, or is she doing it herself by being racist and double down, triple down, quadruple down, all that stuff? I think it's her, not us.
The routine. And the only way to disincentivize that behavior is to reward the person who's being targeted.
Ah, yes, reward racists. Yeah, that's going to convince them to not be racist. Matt Walsh, you are such an idiot.
They must know that their attempt to isolate and ostracize somebody will fail. That for every person condemning the targeted person, two more will rally to their defense.
No. Makes sense. So it's not necessarily that he supports her calling a child a slur. It's about free speech and teaching the cancel culture mob a lesson. Now, Matt Walsh would know a thing or two about that since he's led multiple cancel culture mobs himself. For example, he promoted the Bud Light boycott after they posted.
I do not want to hear you all crying about cancel culture when you all did cancel culture on Bud Light for, God forbid, they had a transgender person on their ads. Yeah. Big deal.
Posted an ad with a trans influencer that offended him, and he also boasted about the success of the right-wing mob, writing on Facebook, the Bud Light boycott was the one time in modern history conservatives staged an effective boycott against a major corporate brand, and he also bragged about how their cancellation of Bud Light was so successful it forced the beer industry to change its advertising standards. And the trans woman at the center of this campaign, who did nothing wrong, by the way, who didn't call a child a slur, received nonstop harassment and death threats for months. But of course, Matt Walsh wasn't concerned about mob violence directed towards her, and he didn't call that cancel culture because you know, if he's in favor of cancel culture,
because he wants to put trans people in gas chambers.
It's not cancel.
After he rapes him first, you know.
Cancel culture. It's something else. On top of that, he also used his platform to spread brazen lies about children's hospitals, and days later, a mob materialized.
Today,
which we just brought up.
Hospitals around the country are butchering, mutilating, and sterilizing their young patients. So according to Boston Children's Hospital, literally every toddler who has ever been born or will ever be born is trans.
Sorry, that was my
It seems like they're casting the widest imaginable net in order to catch the most children they can and put them all on a path to sterilization and butchery before they can even talk. Well, that's because that's exactly what these monsters are doing.
Only if we can sterilize you first.
Up until this moment, without much resistance from the public.
No.
But that has to end. We have to stop making it so easy on them.
No.
And that's why I'm in the very early stages of trying to organize a national coordinated effort to fight back against this evil.
Yeah, by doing
it's
terroristic
really just a matter of where do we begin?
Like terrorists, like Nazi terrorists,
like stupid libs of TikTok cunt.
Boston Children's Hospital says its staff is being threatened and harassed.
Oh, look at that! 2 days after his transphobic meltdown, a children's hospital got bomb threats.
Right activists
I remember when we covered that.
Misinformation, claiming they perform gender-affirming hysterectomy procedures on young girls.
No, they weren't.
The hospital says it's not true. They do not perform those procedures for anyone under the age of 18. Boston Children's Hospital
says the only transition that happens with trans kids is social acceptance, and that's it.
It is proud, though, to be home to the first pediatric and adolescent transgender health program in the United States. The hospital, though, now is working with law enforcement to try to better protect its staff in the face of these lies.
What a crazy coincidence. Mobs for me,
2
but not
days
the
after
I guess,
he
right?
had his transphobic
Now, to be fair,
meltdown.
Matt Walsh would probably argue that it wasn't Boston Children's Hospital's speech that galvanized the mob. Rather, it was a perceived harm that the mob thought the hospital was carrying out that was endangering adolescents. And even if he was knowingly lying about what the hospital was doing, it wasn't their speech that was the issue, because to him, gender-affirming healthcare in and of itself is not speech. Therefore, I guess in his mind, the mob was justified in that instance since free speech wasn't at the heart of the issue. But with that being said, on the March 12th episode of his show, he called bans on conversion therapy an outrageous attack on free speech.
So he's against banning gay conversion therapy, which doesn't work and is torture. Not surprised.
So, if a discredited practice done to adolescents that causes harm, that's degrading at best and tantamount to torture at worst, is a form of free speech, does that mean that gender-affirming healthcare is also free speech in his mind? I mean, if I had to guess, I'm assuming that he probably wouldn't be that consistent on this issue, but let's just cut the bullshit.
Because Nazis like him
I don't think that Matt Walsh actually cares about
free
speech.
That's
he
their
implies
job.
that Shiloh Hendricks doesn't have free speech.
Their job is to never be like that.
And to be as bigoted and evil as possible.
Because a mob is trying to get her killed and wants to burn down her house and murder her family and all this. But his evidence is mean TikToks. But he's trying to do something that is obvious. He's trying to prime his audience to think about this openly racist Karen as the real victim, as opposed to the literal child that she accosted and called the N-word. That kid is the victim, not this fucking grown adult. And in the year of our Lord 2025, I've got to say, conservatives, just drop the fucking act already. We know that you don't care about free speech. It's tiring to hear you talk about free speech after not actually standing up and advocating for your values. You have plenty of opportunities to do that. I mean, Matt Walsh He critically supports an administration that has detained people for free speech. Literally. I haven't seen him publish any videos or passionate defenses of Mahmoud Khalil or Ramisa Ozturk or Mohsen Madawi, who were detained for criticizing Israel's genocide of Palestinians. If you can't bring yourself to condemn the clearest violation of our First Amendment in modern history, spare me the fucking lectures about free speech, okay? See, here's what I think this is really about to Matt Walsh. I think he's using free speech as a pretense to defend a racist woman because his views align with hers. That's my hunch. That's what I think this is about. Now, you can accuse me of being too uncharitable, but in the next clip, he's going to agree with her that white people actually should be allowed to use racial slurs.
The rules surrounding this word, the moral weight granted to it, the arbitrary guidelines drawn around it, it's all nonsense. It's all indefensible on both moral and intellectual grounds. People are fed up with it. That's what you're seeing in this story. People are just fed up with it. Now, that child, if he's like the average black child in this country, did not hear the N-word for the first time from a white woman at the park last week. Okay? He's no doubt heard it thousands of times. He likely hears it every day.
I probably guarantee you, Matt Walsh, a 5-year-old black kid probably has never heard the N-word that common at all, except from racist Karens, like the woman.
He genuinely thinks that black people are like, hey, N-word, how you doing, N-word? I'm good, N-word. How about you, N-word? I'm good, N-word.
As someone
they just used it like as a describer.
As someone who grew up in that kind of area and has already seen this video, I'm going to get to that in a little bit.
Probably hears it in his own home. Are we supposed to believe that he's heard the word 1,000 times, but it's time 1,001 that really traumatized him? I mean, the idea that the word is a common greeting for one race, but unspeakably evil, if uttered...
Oh, God, here we go again. All right. I hope you're all ready for this. I hope if you're triggered, get prepared, because here's your trigger warning. Are you ready? Once again, I'm going to tell you once again, nigga and nigger are not the same thing. How many times I gotta explain this to you people?
Look at the last, like, okay, I'm going to write and say it. No, just the last bit. Gar sounds more friendly. Grr, grr, like it. Grr sounds aggressive and
nigger is a racial epithet used for centuries and all that. There's nothing good about it. Nigga is a term of endearment. That's the difference. And you know what? White people can say nigga and nigger. There's nothing wrong with that. It all depends upon the context. Like, there are times where you need to quote someone who says it. Like a music, the common things like lyrics in a song that say nigger. That's perfectly fine if you're white, if you're saying it. There's nothing wrong with it. And if people have a meltdown about it, well, fuck them. They're Karen cunts. How about that? If you're quoting someone, that's fine. If you're say it like in a script for like a movie or something like that, again, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, if you use it against a black person for no reason, then yeah, that is racist. That's where it's different. Now, you could still say it, but you'll have to face like the social and potential legal consequences of doing so. But,
or even physical consequences.
But again, nigga, nigger are different things. It's not that hard to understand, and context is always important. This reminds me of the time years ago when Civ Monsters tried to get me canceled for trying to bring this up. That nigga, nigger are different, and they failed spectacularly.
By a different race is laughably ridiculous. The idea.
Oh yeah, hey Walsh, look at that. How many times they say nigger? And nothing happened. How about that one? Because no one cares, and the context is understandable.
That one race can say the word 10,000 times a day.
Nigga's different from nigger, pal. And also, like I said, and another thing too I mentioned brought up, since I grew up in the areas he's talking about, as someone who grew up in Baltimore County, which is like north of like Baltimore City itself. And part of where I live, it's majority, where I used to live, it's like almost 60% black. I'll tell you all right now, the use of nigga, that's more of like a ghetto thing. It's not even like a race thing. People that grew up like in the ghettos and like poor areas, yeah, they're more likely to say it. But if you talk to blacks that are like middle class and rich and stuff like that, guess what? That term's almost non-existent. Black people that are like rich or middle class, whatever, they act like stereotypical white people. So it's not even a race thing. It's a ghetto thing. Not that hard to understand.
And the other race cannot speak the syllables under any circumstance.
Walsh. Nigger. Oh, no one's coming after me? Oh, okay, nothing happened.
There might be a few people who get annoyed in the comments, maybe.
Oh, well, for them. Context is what matters. I said it, nothing happened to me because I didn't say it in a racist context like this Karen cunt did. And Walsh, I said it, nothing happened to me, and I'm white. So how about that one?
Even if they're just repeating what someone else said or singing along to a rap.
Again, if you do that, there's nothing wrong with it. And if people cry about it, fuck them.
Song, that idea, again, is totally indefensible. If black people want white people to not say the word, then they need to not say it.
Walsh, nigger are different. What part do you not understand? And there's nothing wrong with white people saying either. It all depends on context.
If you say it, everyone else can say it. Point blank, it's that simple.
And you know what? For like the very rare time, I actually agree with you. But again, context is what matters.
That's how life works.
Exactly.
Deal?
If a racist Karen cunt calls a minority the N-word for no reason other than them being black, they deserve to be made fun of. How about that one? If you're quoting something or whatever, that's fine.
With it. Telling white people and white people only that they can't combine two specific syllables under any circumstance. It's
I wasn't told that, or if I was, I ignored them, because context, people. How many times have I said the N-word in this video already, and nothing's happened?
They can't touch their head unless someone says Simon Says. Okay? They're not going to play the game forever.
I bet that rant goes hard if you're stupid as fuck. Listen, the good news here is that I think we're finally getting an answer to the question that Matt Walsh posed in his 2024 film titled, Am I a Racist? Congratulations, Matt. I know that you've been struggling with this for a really long time, so I'm happy that you're finally getting...
Am I a Nazi? And the answer is yes.
Some closure.
Am I a pedo? Yes.
The answer is an unequivocal yes. You are a fucking racist, Matt Walsh. First of all, you've been dealing with this for a really long time, so I'm happy that you're finally getting some closure. The answer is an unequivocal yes. You are a fucking racist, Matt Walsh. First of all, you have no idea if this kid's parents use that word at all, let alone around him. Second,
you gotta be a little bit careful with Mike, because remember, he is self-admitted woke, so he might not make the same arguments that I did, and he probably would be more likely the person that would actually go along with Walsh's stereotypes, that whites can't ever say it under any circumstances. We gotta be careful about what he's talking about.
Why do you want to say it so bad? Why do conservatives want to say it so bad?
Well, they're racist, that's why. I don't really care about saying it, but I'm going to say it if I need to prove a point or quote someone or do a lyrics or script or whatever. Like, that's the reason why I did for it. I wasn't racist like they are.
Why is this their main issue?
Exactly.
Third, it's not illegal to say it, and you know that. They all know that. But
again, it's not illegal to say it. If you want to, you can. You just have to deal with social consequences for it.
The crux of the issue is that you can't say it without being criticized. You want to be able to say it and not face any backlash or societal repercussions whatsoever. And the fact that that's no longer the case, the fact that white people can't call black people the N-word with impunity, is the issue here. See, Matt Walsh is a multimillionaire who's probably
you want to
bored
get away
out of
with
his
being
mind,
racist,
so
but sorry,
he's
you're
got to make
not.
up shit that makes him feel like he's oppressed, so that way his pathetic life has more meaning. He's a rich, straight white dude in America, and given what I know about him, the prospect of historically marginalized groups reaching social parity with him is something that probably scares him, because when you're at the tippy top of the social hierarchy, equality for everyone else feels like oppression for you, especially if you think everyone else should be beneath you because you think you're better than everyone else. But to argue that white people should be allowed to say it, he makes the petulant, childlike argument about how white people should be allowed to say it because black people get to say it, so it's only fair if they get to say it too. It's called context, dipshit.
What? Mike actually made the based argument and didn't sound like a woke scold? Well, thank goodness.
That word was used as a weapon against black communities who suffered through slavery.
Why do you think why Negroes and colored folk aren't used that often? Because it was used in a racial way. That's why.
Jim Crow, redlining, and so many other crimes against humanity that our government has never atoned for. To this day, black Americans are disproportionately affected by poverty. homelessness, food insecurity, maternal mortality, income inequality, police brutality, racial profiling. They typically have worse health outcomes, not to mention they suffer from diseases at higher rates, such as prostate cancer, breast cancer, diabetes, even COVID-19. And it's not a coincidence that Black Americans have so many disadvantages when our institutions were literally
Black areas because they're existentially racist.
Also lead poisoning too, remember, for a long time.
Built on a foundation of white supremacy. This doesn't
is going to sound a bit thing, but it kind of is fact that it's kind of how white people operate a lot of the time.
That white people can't be poor or have problems themselves.
Well, they do.
But what it does mean is that they're not going to automatically be burdened with additional disadvantages simply because of their race.
Yeah, because white privilege exists.
So if Black Americans choose to appropriate a word that was historically used to dehumanize them, I think that's pretty reasonable, don't you? I don't think that people
I don't care if they made up nigga. I don't care what they say. Doesn't matter to me.
At fucking Walsh get to tell them what is and isn't acceptable for their community, given
Walsh, are you being a woke scold Karen?
his malicious ignorance and distance from the issues that materially affect their community.
You want to control people's speech? I thought you're pro-free speech.
A Black American using that word as a term of endearment
free speech, including freedom from consequences for him, but not for me.
But of course, Mike's too woke to say nigger like I casually did.
Very different than a white racist using that word to dehumanize, especially if they're using that word against a fucking child, Nat. Context matters, and other conservatives are seemingly self-aware enough to understand this, at least on a subconscious level, which is why they didn't openly defend this lady, even if they probably wanted to. Matt Walsh, however, couldn't care less because this is the moment according
in the Earth's mantle, and Matt Walsh is in Jupiter's core.
Hopefully being crushed by the pressure.
Him to end cancel culture once and for all.
Infinite
of course,
pressure.
Until he needs to weaponize cancel culture for his own political purposes. It is such bullshit. But please, don't think that the reluctance of other conservatives to rush to this lady's defense is some sort of a sign that they're somehow redeemable, because if I had to guess, they probably agree with Matt Walsh, but they're just too afraid to say it. And the reason why I say this is because they're very open about other forms of discrimination that aren't as socially unacceptable, like ableism and Islamophobia. Case in point, Asmongold, the most popular political scholar in all of North America, believe it or not, who doesn't bathe and tweets about rotting dead animals falling through his ceiling, literally.
Remember he advocated killing Palestinians?
Shared some of his political insight that I guess
there's a good chance he's actually murdered a couple.
The only good thing
maybe missing Palestinian ones, Palestinian people in his local area. You'd probably say decent chance that Asmongold himself murdered them.
The only good thing Asmongold ever did in his life was make fun of and expose elongated Musgrave that he sucks at video gaming. That's literally the only thing he ever did good.
Him so popular, he says society would instantly and dramatically improve if we took the bottom 5 to 10 most R-word kids out of school and put them in the coal mines instead.
Put 10% of the most retarded kids out of school into the coal mines? Buddy, it's not gonna be fun like Minecraft is.
Almost all Western cultural problems are derived.
And of course, Mike's too woke to say retarded.
From adherence to the false god of equality. Brilliant political analysis there. Another example is Republican Congressman Randy Fine, who responded to the only Palestinian American in Congress who tweeted about how Israel...
This person advocated starving Palestinians and got mad Rashida Tlaib pointing it out.
Israel is starving Palestinians in Gaza to death with our support.
And then when she pointed out, he then advocated murdering her.
And probably raping her too.
Arms embargo. But he responded by calling her a Muslim terrorist, and he uses the hashtag #StarveAway to endorse the starvation that Palestinians in Gaza are currently experiencing. He then proceeded to double and triple down, using other hashtags such as #KeepOnStarving. And the famine in Gaza, by the way, is not theoretical. This is what a sitting member of Congress is publicly supporting. Human beings being starved to death with the full support of our government. But I mean, nobody should be surprised because this is the modern-day conservative movement. They are openly genocidal and bigoted to the point where they've structured their entire political
Nazi terrorist organization
they purport to care about free speech so long as they're free to use slurs without consequences.
And remember, it's not just Christian Nazi either, because they used the Chechens, who are Islamic Nazis.
Advocacy for
Nazis
free speech.
everywhere, people.
They claim that, they oppose equality.
Narendra Modi, who's a Hindu Nazi,
mediocrity.
Aung San Suu Kyi, and the other members of the various governments in Myanmar, Buddhist Nazis. Back in the 1930s and 1940s, the Japanese Empire was Shinto Nazis.
Erdogan.
Yep, Erdogan wanting to build a neo-Ottoman empire. Rodrigo Duterte was acting like a Nazi.
Nazi Yahoo.
Bibi Hitler Yahoo, the Zio Nazi terrorist.
Don't you all love my nicknames I make up people? I'm better at than Trump.
They're bigoted, and they hate equality because they think that they're better than everyone else, and them not being able to lord over everyone else in society feels like oppression to them. They claim to be Christians and Christian nationalists and theocratic fascists, as is the case with Matt Walsh.
Because that's what Matt Walsh is. He's proudly said, "I am a Christian Nazi."
Man, he'd be so mad if he runs into Ayaka, wouldn't he?
You'd kill him.
Oh, no. No. We know exactly what you do. You're like, 14-year-old Japanese girl? Oh, that's perfect waifu material.
Who want to impose their religion
and then she beats him to death with a Bible.
And he's like, my body and soul are for Hideo-kun only.
Commandments on public property, yet they disregard the commandment about murdering people. Specifically, bring up Palestinians
you should have
and
like
the
a
genocide
secret chapter where she runs into Matt Walsh and beats him to death with a Bible.
Imagine me trying to make a white person in Manga Maker Kamapo when everyone looks Japanese.
That our government is supporting.
Funny thing, there is an American character I really want to add into the series, but I can't because it's not possible right now.
Suddenly, they have amnesia. They can't seem to remember what the Ten Commandments said about murdering people. See, conservatives' entire political project is premised on making people's lives as miserable as possible. They are sick, sociopathic, sadistic fucks who thrive on being misery. It fuels them. They sow division and purposefully antagonize and pit working class people against one another, so that way we're fighting each other instead of the oligarchs robbing us blind. There's a reason, by the way, why the Daily Wire has so many billionaire investors. It's because they are useful
Saudi
tools
Arabia,
to the
India,
class.
Pakistan, Myanmar, Japan in 1945, Germany in 1945, Italy in 1945.
Now, if you got out of the way and let's do what we want, we would look like base Scandinavia.
Is what modern-day conservatism is about. And to be frank, it's what it's always been and is what it always will be. The only difference is the degree to which they allow their masks to slip. And if you consider yourself to be part of this hateful, morally bankrupt, degenerate movement, ask yourself what that says about you.
Wasn't there like one tweet we covered before he pretty much admitted he's a Nazi or whatever?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that happened because he's such an idiot. Well, yeah. So what do you gotta say about Matt Walsh defending racists?
No surprising. No surprise he is a Nazi, so...
But of course, what's better than that than another dose of Matt Walsh? This time from the Majority Report. As he had a crybaby Karen meltdown recently about TradCon waifus. And also, that's been a thing now recently, as apparently now conservatives are getting mad about women don't want to be TradCon waifus, and the peak of, remember that peak on social media years ago about how big the TradCon waifu trend was? Now it's seemingly to die. Now it's seeming to die, which is good, and it makes them very angry. So let's watch Megyn Kelly and Matt Walsh rage for no reason.
I guess there's a little bit of a feud
and sucks there's no Sam Sita here.
Right-wing media right now. The Daily Wire is in deep financial trouble.
We're bringing in a mix of the A team and the B team, but not the A. Himself.
Hello, Emma. How nice to see you again.
Candace Owens left them and is having a lot more success on her own.
Brett Cooper's also rebounded very quickly when she started her own independent channel.
It's turns out that some of these major
maybe you don't need the Ben Shapiro sauce
or other networks. I mean, frankly, even TYT what is being
oh my god, that reminds me. TYT recently had on Karen Green.
Yeah,
oh my god.
I remember them having
Fucking
vicious
idiot.
Karen Green. She was flirting with Yank. What the fuck?
Oh no, I also just remembered. Anna is now on a show, like the right-wing View now. Oh my god.
Oh god.
Anna! Karen Kasparian, what is wrong with you? Why are you falling this low?
She's become a Karen, that's what it is.
She's always a Karen, apparently.
Offered by being
God.
employed by these
Just like Chunk Gilbert's becoming the brown buffalo.
media online kind of conglomerates that they'll maybe take a cut of your YouTube revenue to optimize how your videos are going to come up, as was the case in the past with the Majority Report. But we're kind of past the point where that's really even necessary. And it's not entirely clear
I think we're going to have to make fun of TYT again
in the way
soon,
that it
along
once
with
was or
Dipshit
needed
Hassan
was.
Because I need to look into this
There's a
scandal he
big
had
rise in
recently.
independent media across the board. Like we're seeing it in sports media too. John Boy or Barstool Sports, they're outliving their usefulness. You can just be an independent creator and not have these middleman companies take out so much of the value in the middle and hoard it at the top. And
own the IP at the end.
own the IP. That's the other part is that Brett Cooper couldn't hold on to her YouTube channel after she left the Daily Wire because they own it.
Zach Lowe went to the Ringer. He can't call his show the Zach Lowe Show anymore. It's now the Zach Lowe Podcast. All sorts of things. It's always things like that. Which
Imagine
is just
being so irrelevant I don't even know your right-wing dipshits'
capitalists can
asses
just
at all.
own things like that.
Yeah, and
I wish
so
all of you, I
Candace
wish all you
Owens has
conservatives
left.
were like that.
She
Had no power
is
whatsoever.
a top
Our lives would be
5
so
political
much better if
podcast
you
in the
shut up
country.
and went
God
away.
help us. And she's differentiating
Exactly.
herself from her former Daily Wire counterparts by also criticizing Israel's genocide in Gaza from an
Well, the difference is Candace Owens, when she criticizes Israel, it's because they're Jews. That's the only way she criticizes them, and that's something that needs to be completely dismissed. Looking at you, dumb leftists. Like you, Hassan.
A Semitic angle, oftentimes.
Exactly.
Which is
who I
deeply
think deep down
concerning,
really is
but
anti-Semitic.
that is part of where she's found her niche. Even the polling bears it out. Young Republicans are against tax dollars going to Israel's genocide in Gaza, not on humanitarian grounds like the left is, but they're against it and in growing numbers.
They're against it for the same reason dumb leftists are.
Pew poll had it around 50%
They hate
for
America.
Republicans 18
And
to
Jews.
49 years old who have a negative view of Israel.
They buy into the.
So with all of that said, I do think that the Daily Wire crew is struggling for relevance.
Yeah, it's so frustrating.
Let's start with Megyn Kelly, who made this post about trad wives that really pissed off Matt Walsh.
Here's what's happening on the right. Young women.
Oh, hello,
talk to young
Karen
conservative
Kelly.
women all the time about their lives and
Yep,
their goals
there
and
she is,
the things
of
that they want.
course.
And what's happening is they can't find men who are maybe more conservative. Usually they're looking for somebody who is religious. You know, like a lot of conservative women tend to be God-loving.
Are conservative TradCon women seriously having a problem finding conservative men? Men are more conservative on average. That should be very easy. Like, come on. How much of a failure you have to be?
Except women don't want to be wife beaters.
Oh my goodness, how much of a failure you have to be?
They can't find a lot of young men who want to marry a working woman now. And this is an
probably because they're misogynistic pricks.
Actual problem that's coming up on
What is it with men that have a big deal about? What is it with men that have a big deal about women making more money more money than them? My mom made more money than my dad did when they worked for crying out loud. It didn't seem a big deal to me.
And to me, it's so sad because it's like, how did we get to the point where we're now telling young, conservative, amazing women that they're not attractive if they also work. If they choose to, let's say, do...
Yep, that's just the misogyny you have to deal with then. That's all you can say. And also, if you're conservative, you're not amazing women. Sorry, pal.
What I'm doing and what you're doing. And, get their voice out there. But I'll stick with me just because I think conservatives listening to this will like the thought of another Megyn Kelly voice up and coming. Well, why wouldn't we want that? Why would we take somebody who's talented in this field and really wants to make a difference and have the messaging to her be, you're really not that valuable unless you give it up and go into the home and only have a family? And
Megyn, That's why.
Man,
they're misogynists.
What are you doing
That's
here?
why.
Then what are you doing on here?
They don't want you to work. They want you to be at home and be a cum bucket, basically. Nothing else.
Pretty much,
because that's how misogynistic the right is. Whereas we, on the left, we want you to do whatever you want.
Only raise a family. And, not only are we sending her that message, but young men are actually believing that. They're actually...
Because they're misogynistic too.
Believing it, especially on the right.
Exactly.
Because the trad mom has gotten so popular. And it's like, no.
I'm sure even Ayaka, who's the closest trad-con waifu to these fuckers, even she wouldn't put up with it.
If we do that, we're not going to have any strong,
probably get to the point of killing them with beating them to death with a Bible.
Right-leaning women to provide a role model for younger conservative women who, and there's nothing to apologize for here, don't necessarily want to spend all their 20s and their 30s getting married and having kids, or...
Which is fine, but conservatives don't like that, Megan. That's the problem.
Or can't. They just weren't able to meet somebody, and definitely don't need to be shamed over it.
That... Oh, do you
the
do
funny
that?
thing is, I actually agree with her
I
at
thought
the
somebody
end.
did that to the clip that I pulled.
The men in the audience are like, what the hell are you talking about? Can you stop bringing your woman business into our political commentary? Because, like,
Megan Kelly put on
we
a
like you
maid
again,
outfit.
Megan. Now that you kind of came back to Trump land, you were
doing a
in
nude
2016. You were
apron.
bleeding out of your wherever. You were besmirching
nurse
the good
outfit.
name of Roger Ailes by talking about
Or
his
the
systemic
soldier
sexual
outfit.
harassment in the
Put
workplace,
on the sailor
including towards yourself,
uniform.
and being a little bit too mouthy,
without
you dumb
undergarments.
bitch. So
And a shorter-
let's
and an
get
even
back
shorter skirt
to
than in my
the
Blossom
Trump
in
love.
summer.
That's what we're all here for. And what we also love about Donald Trump is the fact that he enables guys like Andrew Tate and brings them back into the country. That he appoints guys
Because
like
he's a
Pete Hegseth,
misogynist.
who has a police report against him,
Exactly.
although not proven in a court of law, but that the woman says that she was drugged by him in the police report when she went to the nurse and talked about it, where she said that he blocked the door and took her phone and sexually assaulted her.
Oh, yeah. Thank
and there
you,
have
Trump,
been
for
other
trying to bring that
examples
fucktard
of these
Andrew
kinds of
Tate in.
accusations being made towards countless people in the Trump orbit.
Yeah.
They like that. In
Can we-
fact, it's
I wanna
ideologically
see, does he actually
consistent
come back?
with the people that are coming
Hey.
up on the right
Andrew Tate.
in the manosphere
Yes.
space. They fit in very neatly together because they are one and the same. Like, I love how she just sometimes peeks her head out.
Hey, Trump, if you're going to deport anyone, take that fucking back to Romania.
From this, because she's smart enough to understand
Sorry,
that her
Romania
speech
needs to be
is
your problem, not
misogynistic,
mine.
but like, don't even
I
bother.
want his ass
'cause
gone
this
like
is
elongated
they're gonna
musgrave.
they're gonna come at
Exactly.
you. Because if you're going to be a Republican conservative influencer,
pests,
Megan,
sex
just buy
traffickers,
fully
sexual
in.
predators, I want
You're
them
not
all
going to be
gone.
able to
Yep.
to
Pretty
combat
much.
this tide because misogyny is inherent to their political project, especially
and
right
Tate's
now.
ideology too.
But those comments made Matt Walsh, theocrat, Christian
Nazi
theocrat
pedophile
on staff, I should
misogynist
say,
himself.
at the Daily Wire.
Every negativist in the dirt in the book.
Who doesn't like the idea of this woman pushing back against the idea that men should want women
Oh yeah,
that
he's mad at
are in
Megyn
the
Kelly
home.
said something so mild.
A man is not looking for a business partner. He's not looking for someone to provide for him. He wants a wife.
What makes you think men don't want that dipshit? Not all men are the same, you fucking moron.
He wants a mother for his future children.
I'm a man. I don't want no waifu. I don't want no kids. So how about that one?
He wants a helpmate. He wants a woman, not a man. This is not a new...
What if they're gay, pal? What if they're bi?
Exactly.
Oh, that's right. You don't... Oh, that's right. You think, gays and bi
You'd
should be
murder them
murdered.
if they did.
Yep. Oh, that's right. You want them all dead. That's right. I forgot.
Phenomenon. Megan calls this desire of young men a problem that is coming up on...
It kind of is a problem if they want to force women to do that. Yeah, that is a very big problem. Like you.
the right. But it's not a problem.
I mean, don't cut back, but I think the helpmate line, we need to circle back to that one because I think that's kind of revealing.
It's revealing also that what do men
Fold my
want?
socks.
What do men want? Does it matter what the woman wants? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. No, it doesn't matter because they don't care about women's rights whatsoever. Women are cum buckets. That's all they think of them as.
Read the Bible.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's not coming up. Kim Iverson responded in agreement with Megan and said that she, quote,
Kim
doesn't get this trad wife trend.
Well, she's calling a trend, or what
Man,
Megan
why are you making two women I do not like? I have to agree with them all of a sudden. Why are you doing that?
says is just coming up.
Because of how much of a misogynist, racist, Nazi piece of shit, Nazi pedophile piece of shit he is.
I don't like Megyn Kelly and Ken Iverson. I don't want to have to defend them.
In fact, the norm.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the way human society has been organized since the dawn of civilization.
No. Human society, historically, if you looked at throughout history, it'd be more like communal families, not the nuclear family. That's like post-World War II stuff, pal, dipshit.
A young man seeking a woman who will have his children and prioritize raising them and keeping a home is doing the same thing that billions of other young men have done since time immemorial.
Billions and most... Matt, I can almost guarantee you, I bet if you looked up the stats, I bet you the majority of men didn't even have kids because they were killed in war or disease or something like that.
This traditional approach is not
Look at all the tens of millions of men that were killed in World War II.
Nor is it a far-right conspiracy.
Exactly.
It is the way of...
Hey, there's a very good argument about this. Fucking Russia! You see how... Look at Russia's demographics. Look at the bottlenecks they've had for like every 20 years. Why? Because of all the men that were killed during World War II, didn't have kids, which means they didn't have kids, which means they didn't have kids. You can look at the Russia's demographic pool, and you can see every like 20 years it like dips and then dips and then dips again. So yeah, that's millions of men that didn't have kids because of war.
Civilization. These young men, they want what their grandfathers wanted, and what their grandfathers' grandfathers wanted, and what their grandfathers' grandfathers' grandfathers.
I don't want that. So how about that?
And on through the ages. The trend.
Do you want kids? I sure don't.
The new thing, Megan, is
maybe
feminism.
maybe eventually.
Of course, you gotta find that waifu, which we don't have.
This is historically absolutely not
but
true.
But unlike
say,
pathetic piece of shit here, we don't think women are cum
I just need to find the best helpmates to raise my
Only
kids.
In bed they are.
Which one of these broads has the richest father?
Yeah. What's the dowry situation? Exactly. Let's get down to brass tacks here.
Exactly right. And so, I mean, we can go back to it a little bit more.
You will notice that we're about a minute and 20 seconds in, and he has not mentioned what women want at all.
Because he hates women.
Watching, we're going to tell you.
Because he hates women, and he thinks that he probably prefers underage girls.
Which, by the way, people, he's on video advocating marrying 15-year-olds, and we're not making it up. We've covered it before. It's that bad.
Career women who
find thinks that girls want to. I think that girls want to. I think that girls as young as 7 should be engaging in sex acts with boys their age.
That's why I made a joke about him wanting to rape Ayaka, because he actually believes it.
For value and purpose in the working world, there's no question that they are the ones doing something new. Feminism sent women out of the home and into cubicles and boardrooms. Feminism can...
I'll just say, like, my great
feminism did that, or is it just the economic situation?
Oh, remember, he believes that his beliefs are in the year 6.
That might be too offensive for the year 6.
You look at like early organizing among like farmers and stuff like that.
Only in
is driven by women.
That'd be fine if it was in the time of the genocidal Jews from 2,000 years ago. At the time,
knowing him, he probably wished that happened again.
And there's some sort of household chores issues that maybe men are out in the field, women are more like closer to the telephone, newly invented telephones and that sort of stuff. But the truth is that women's role in all this stuff has always been significant and then subsequently underplayed.
And also, but he's just describing capitalism. He's just describing why do women have to work now?
Wolf is not going to like that.
I mean, a lot of families would prefer to have a single income household.
Right.
Pretty much.
I think
a
lot of maybe women would do part-time work or something like that in ideal, or the man would do part-time work and the woman would work full-time, because childcare is so damn expensive that not having to pay for it is sometimes even more financially sensible for a family than having dual incomes, although that's a rarity these days. It's just kind of necessary, so you have to
again, conservatives are still jealous. They'll never be as funny as me.
Rely on things like family,
and do I remind you,
friends,
I don't even have to
neighbors,
try?
because we don't have universal childcare in this country. It's the problem of capitalism. Also, because women's labor and labor in the home has never been prioritized by capitalism, even though that kind of labor of child rearing and of household care has been like it's the bedrock of our society. Without it, it's very difficult for us to kind of create families, like, which is what they say they care about. The problem is capitalism, because two incomes sometimes can't sustain a family, let alone one.
There are some that would need 5 jobs and still not 6 jobs between the two of them and still not making enough to survive.
Which is why you need regulated capitalism, people.
Convinced many women to desire professional success over and above family and children. And now feminists are angry that men were not reprogrammed along with them.
Feminists don't care Feminists don't care what men do as long as it's consensual and they willingly choose to do it.
Exactly.
You're talking to two feminists, pal.
Okay? Men
pretty much
don't want what feminism is selling.
I do. Do you?
I do too.
You may think they should want it. You may want them to want it.
I do
but
want
they
it.
don't.
White supremacists don't want what anti-racism is selling.
Exactly.
You know, although that's more about the extreme end of like white people. But yeah, no, it's a liberation philosophy for women and the dominant gender.
Matt Walsh wants to return to a society where women feel compelled to retreat into the safety of a couple bond because the world is too hostile to them.
Because having financial independence is a threat to small little men like Matt Walsh, who are afraid that a woman
savage
will leave them, so they need their economic power to lord over them.
Very savage.
What? Now, why can't you be that like all the time so I can finally get rid of the SJW era? Every time I think of you, I think of that.
And use other forms of domination. Not saying Matt Walsh does this, but many of the men he's speaking
that was
to
also
likely
because she
do.
was part of TYT
Whether he's
back
sexually
then.
assaulting
I
their
know.
wife, which wasn't a crime a few decades ago. Whether it be just controlling her, say, if she's pregnant with twins, 8 months pregnant, and you're still making your wife go grocery shopping for you, and you get caught on a Ring camera disparaging her, and you don't give her a call.
Sounds like Steven Crowder.
Even though you're a multimillionaire, conservative influencer.
Looking at you, Steven Crowder.
Anyway.
Along with
they look out and they see that ever since the rise of feminism, divorce rates have skyrocketed, birth rates have plummeted, 6 million babies are dead, and
because he's an abusive closet case. That's why.
I mean, just to do a little bit of
he wants to be kicked in the nuts by another man.
Correlation does not equal causation.
No, he wants to get sodomized by one.
You could just go back to making it way harder legally for people to get divorces and make them stay in marriages.
Oh yeah, of course, Matt Walsh against no fault divorce.
Stay in marriages with husbands they don't want to be in. Again, barbaric, and Matt Walsh is wrong to do that. And the type of men that listen to this and say like, "Yeah, I wish." Guess what, bro? You're never going back to 1950. It's never fucking.
Or at least not willingly.
Trump can try to move heaven and earth. It's not happening. You need to learn how to adapt to a new situation. And actually, there's a Wall Street Journal piece.
Which means be a feminist
I want to get to after we finish.
Exactly.
I mean, we're probably not going to finish this.
And then you'll get the pussy.
Just a little bit more.
Are, by every metric, much more miserable. And they don't want that. You cannot make them want it. And getting angry at them for not wanting it is first
arrogant, and I'm a man.
Fourth, foolish. Because these young men that Megan is referring to have an innate desire to be providers.
Innate. All right. So this is the other thing.
It's not really innate, nor is it like a requirement. If men and women don't want to do that, that's okay too. So stop crying.
Yeah, the naturalization of hierarchy.
If it's
is
innate,
the
how come
one thing
I don't
you
want
need
to
be
do any of
if
that?
you're analyzing Republican and conservative media. They naturalize inequality and they pretend like it was ordained by God that this is how things exist, as opposed to a series of choices that we make as a society and as a world. It's not natural. There's nothing natural about it. Matt Walsh claims that there's only 2 genders, and that's all that's.
There's infinite genders. How about that?
The science on this front, which shows that something from like 1% to 2% of the population is intersex and has intersex traits. That blows a hole in the binary theory many times.
Remember when he went...
Sex isn't binary, it's bimodal.
Remember when he went on Joe Rogan's podcast and he said millions and millions of kids were getting transitioned, and then Jamie...
And he was off by almost 3 orders of magnitude.
Fucking idiot.
Biological sex is binary, but in those instances it's not. So it can't be binary, but like... Why would it be necessary for him to describe those things as binary? Because it reinforces the hierarchy of men over women, of
again,
straight
people,
white male
is
patriarchs over LGBTQ people, over women, over black people. You also see them naturalizing racial hierarchies. That is how this works.
He's a Nazi. That kind of goes with being those things.
He pretty much admitted it years ago, just like he's on video advocating marrying 15-year-olds.
Not especially interested in women who put their careers first. They want to provide. The desire to provide is a...
They don't like women working. Fuck off.
You fucking imbecile.
Deal with it.
Noble desire, even if many of these men will end up splitting the financial load with their wives in some way, still the desire to provide is noble, and it should be...
Most of these men that are crying are probably soy boy losers who want to play video games all day like me.
Pretty much.
Encouraged, not shamed.
Pretty much.
It's not
They're
sad.
like the incels in South Korea.
Megan, these young men are experiencing a deep, ancient yearning, a yearning to leave.
And can I just say why they
How
aren't
come
able
I'm
to
not
go out
experiencing this
into the
yearning to
marketplace and provide
have
is
kids?
not because women said, "Hey, let's do credit cards and stop raping me." It's because capitalism cannot provide what Matt Walsh says it can. It does not. It
That's why you
cannot
need
provide
regulated
rising,
capitalism with some socialism.
living standards for everyone else. You know what, Ken? Central planning through a government. That's why China is kicking our ass and all this stuff. We can pretend like it's about regulation.
I don't know about that one. China sucks, pal.
Salary, the
Let's not go too far the other extreme.
Like we're getting in their way. That's a lie as they strangle what was great about this country and repackage it into fundamentalism that would make fucking Thomas
Let's
Jefferson
not go dumb leftists and suck off China for no
again,
reason.
Notice that all that matters, which backs up exactly what we're saying. All that matters in his analysis is how men feel about feminism, not about how women feel about feminism. Right?
Yeah.
Or how about
find a way.
Hey, Walsh, how about you ask men that are feminists like us, and we'll tell you how it is.
And become one flesh, as the scripture says, and then to have children and carry on their bloodline, and then to go back out into the world on a mission to provide for their family, thereby fulfilling their destiny as men.
Man, no wonder you pretty much admit you're a Nazi obsessed with bloodlines.
Desire is
Wait,
prime
I'm sorry,
and timeless.
hold on.
It is not a prime.
Where did he get a hold of my wedding vows that I'm writing right now? I mean, isn't this how normal people talk about one another? Hey, husband, I want to become one flesh and body with you.
Yeah.
Is that natural? As long as we're naturalizing things, is it natural to have that level of codependency with a partner? Because I don't know. Maybe in his world. But perhaps
the
not
world where
in
you rape
the same
15-year-olds?
part of this country.
Yeah, and force 7-year-olds to fuck each other.
Got married to
15 yet, but she's
Mormon guy.
A-okay.
And from she's from a pretty conservative background. Probably right conservative voting.
I guess he'll like one of the women whose actual B-Day comes up first in the series, coming up in a future volume.
They're scandalized
who just turned
by
15
the
too.
vows about submission to the husband.
The right age for
that were
him.
there. And this is what Matt Walsh thinks can.
Thankfully, it's the one woman I know for a fact would kick his ass the most.
Ancient way of thinking. They do like to show up for their folks.
Timeless desire for a colleague or a business partner. It is a desire for a wife, a woman he can provide for and fight for and conquer the world for. And in return...
Dude, you're acting like you're in Age of History free. What are you talking about?
He wants a woman who will have
He's
his
going
children...
He's going back to the old day, 1500 days. So many bloody years ago, it doesn't matter.
I know I conquered the world in Age of History free, pal, but that's all I want to do. I don't want to conquer the world to have kids or whatever. What is wrong with you?
And raise and love them and prioritize them above anything.
Okay, all right.
And show him.
Unless they're gay, then all of a sudden you don't want them to have families.
Or he's just saying. I mean, he's just filling time.
Or they're black, or they're in an interracial relationship.
In the Wall Street Journal.
Who we can? He don't want black families to have kids either.
I believe the article is called. It's an essay. American women are giving up on marriage. And I saw a quote by this guy, Dave, the Evening Glow.
Marriage sucks.
His caption was, seems like a lot of young girls are
coming
blowing
from
it.
the sex that's supposedly
this is just one section. For Alicia Jones, not having anyone else to financially depend on or split rent with is the worst part of being single.
Remember my anti-marriage meltdown when we made fun of PragerU?
Yes. A single person said. Her last long-term relationship ended 2 years ago over conflicting views of the shared future. He wanted the white picket fence and me at home with the kids, Jones said. This despite the fact that her salary was nearly 50% higher than his. So that actually should be shamed. You fucked your life up, bro. Because this sort of thing that you're sold by people like Matt Walsh that you need, that is innate. Fine, get a job, go work, but don't depend on it for your life's happiness, that you are going to make more than your wife and she's going to be cloistered at home folding laundry.
If she makes more money than you, be happy.
You ruined your life with an idea.
It's a fantasy. It's a fantasy of empowerment and of masculinity that our society can't give you right now. Unless you're in the 1%.
Evil masculinity.
And unless you want the kind of unfulfilling relationship that Matt Walsh is
toxic
selling to you,
that
because
pressures men into acting a certain way.
You're not going to find spiritual happiness if you don't have an equal relationship with your partner where you're friends and confiding in one another and equal in your partnership. You might not always be equal. There may be some times where the other one takes on more and the other one takes on more in 6 months or something like that. But a relationship and a marriage based on subjugation and domination and not fully understanding that person, we saw what that had led to.
Why
the 1950s were not great for women. Just having to take Quaaludes to get through the day. The level of
conservatives like
alcoholism.
that women suffered back then.
What it looked like back then, all the pictures look so pretty.
I mean, we also would litter on the ground back in the day. None of those old AI photos show all the trash that used to be on the ground in the 1950s.
They wish they can only immigrate white people like you all did.
With kids should split household and child responsibilities equally. She was surprised by just how few men she has encountered in D.C. share this view.
They want only the WASP like you did.
Traditional ideas about marriage over extremely crunchy liberals who wanted to live in a van and drive across the country. There you go.
Well, Matt Walsh is saying to all the women in the country,
we need you to be mamala of the country.
Oh, this is actually just reminds me. I have this ready here. It's interesting. This is a good little clip from Some More News here, kind of on the same theme.
Of his day with his kids, he's communicating.
From school, I do not work. I do phone calls. I try to work out. I try to get everything done between the window 7:45 a.m. and 3:30 p.m., which is when they get out from school. Very often, I'm the one who picks them up from school. I do not work from the time I pick them up from school to the time they go to bed, which right now is about 7:30. So that 4-hour period.
Benny boy, are you implying you don't do any housework?
I'm basically at their disposal.
I'd wager that during those 6 hours of his day with his kids, he's communicating, multitasking, nurturing, civilizing them. Gay women shit. Ben Shapiro's wife is a doctor. He used to brag about her all the time. He's of course proud of his doctor wife. He was likely attracted to her partly because of her intelligence and abilities and tolerance of him as a person. I think it's safe to wager that he wouldn't actually agree with his wife being told at a young age, being a doctor is boy stuff.
I wouldn't be happy about that.
A mom instead.
I'll tell them they're Karens if they said that to my kid.
Cody's great.
Condom. Does everybody know what a condom is?
No one's going to tell any future daughter of mine what to do.
Check
How
out our
about that
Daily
one?
Show.
Hey, there's Dad Cedar. Let's go.
Hey.
And literal dad for you.
Yeah, you see how much he looks like my dad and is only a few years younger.
So yeah, we gotta say about Matt Walsh having another meltdown again.
That's all he can do at this point is just melt down over everything.
Oh, it was so satisfying watching him rage and laugh at him, though.
Yeah.
Alright, guys. So that is all the topics. So see you all next time for episode 129.
See you then.